on, brothers and sisters. Liberation is near. It's almost time.
Alright, so what's up? This is the Shetler Show. We're back again. I'm going to get the commercials out of the way again. Kind of give tribute to the sponsors because they're helping us out with this. And, yeah, so one of the first sponsors is Solstice Skate Shop. This is their mug. But, yeah, they're out of New Bedford, Mass. Jay Vasconcelos, awesome dude. Shop's been around for about 15 years. And they're back in the show, so that's pretty tight. Also, we got World Industries, boards and shoes. And last but not least, I got my clothing company, All I Need Apparel. And, yeah, if you want to get any of the clothes, you go to ALLiNEEDSKATE.com. Check out the gear, check out our riders, our skateboarders, and, yeah. That's the sponsors. We're done with that. And today we got a very, very, very awesome guest. I'm psyched. We got Mr. Donny Barley, East Coast legend. And I'm psyched to have Donny, man. I mean, I've skated for some of the same companies with Donny and got to travel with him. And just as a kid, just looking up to you, man, it's a fucking honor for sure. And I was telling someone a story yesterday about the first time I personally thought I would realize how awesome you were. I think I might have told you before, me and my friend Dale were coming back from Skaters Island, and we were driving, and we had his car, and his car was the paint was peeling off because it was old, and we put Element stickers on it, and at that time you were skating for Element, and you pulled up next to us. I don't remember what you were driving, but you were driving like a madman next to us. We had to be doing at least 80, and while he's driving, he's handing the stickers out the window while you're driving, and I was hanging out the passenger side, and we grabbed the stickers. It felt like we were going to crash, and it was like, that made our day. That made our year. That made forever. We were forever Donny Barley fans after that. Is that something, do you remember that?
I do. Yeah, I do remember that. I remember having that discussion with you, too, when you brought that up, and I think I was on my way to Boston or something, maybe.
Probably. Well, we were leaving Skaters Island, so... Yeah. And we were probably going back to New Hampshire, so it probably was on your way to Boston.
Yeah, I just remember, I mean, there's plenty of times I've done that, like just seeing skaters on the road and giving them a honk, and then, you know, it's rad when you have stuff to give away, actually. It makes it for a funner event, you know, makes for an adventure, a memorable moment.
I feel like as sponsored skaters, we get a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And
we can tend to take it for granted sometimes because you end up getting like so many boards, you get so many shoes, and especially back in the day when the industry was thriving like real big, it's like you had so much stuff, you almost didn't know what to do with it all. So it's rad when you can kick it down to the little homies because you know how much they appreciate it. And for us, me and Dale still talk about that every time we link up. Like, we're like, oh yeah, remember that shit? Like, that was like one of our legendary stories. You made our day for sure.
It's cool that, you know, that was before, like, we got to know one another. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I didn't even, I only knew of you then. Yeah. Like magazines, videos, 411. I think the first video I ever saw was a 411 and you were in it. And like, yeah, we didn't even meet. That was just like, dude, Donny Barley, pro skater's next to us, like, risking his life to hand us those big-ass Element stickers, the big round ones, because we had one, and you must have just been like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, when Skater Island was around, you know, there was just, like, this complete little community of young rippers, and you were one of them, you know? And then...
there was a good amount of kids there, man.
Yeah.
Heavy list.
Yeah, and then at one point, I was just like, who's that kid kickflip front boarding down the rail? And then, you know, I learned that was Anthony Shetler, and... yeah, man, you know, and then, like, over time, like, watching you progress and progressing very quickly and being, you know, kind of like a diehard, you know. It was like, word, this guy's got some skills here. And then, you know, time took it where it took it, you know. I
like how you said diehard because I think, like, there's a lot of kids with talent and a lot of people with talent, and that's cool, and there's phases, and a lot of people get into skating, and it's like, oh, these people are amazing, but then it's like, industry shrinks and stuff, and you start to see the people that stay with it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And diehard's a good word because, like, I think experiences like you pulling up out of nowhere on the side of us, handing us stickers, and just knowing, like, we like skating and you like skating and you wanted to stoke us out makes someone want to be a diehard. Like, my friend Dale still skates. He's a chef, you know? He works, that's his job, but he still skates. Like, he loves skateboarding. Like, and I think just sharing shit like that just makes it people love it, and that's the stuff that we need more of in skateboarding for sure. Just more one-on-one personal interaction, especially being a pro, like talking to the kids and stoking them out and reminding them why skating's awesome and that it's not a competition. It's more of like a lifestyle and a passion, a love and art, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
And I think you did a good job.
Thanks,
you
man.
lit my fire. You, Jay, there's a few people in my life that I was like, these people made me love skateboarding for sure. At least showed me how awesome skating was, so I can enjoy it and fall in love with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of, something that when you have a love like skateboarding, you don't even really realize you're doing it. You're just kind of trying to, share as much as you can. And, we had a couple older guys that did the same for us, so.
That's what I was going to ask. So we talked about that. I wanted to kind of talk about how you came up and started skating. Like, who were your influences? That's actually one of the questions I got was someone was like, asked who your early influences were, if there were any, because they feel like you have a one-of-a-kind style and unique approach to skating. That was the question.
Well, it's kind of hard to answer that because when we first started skating, there was really not too many people around in our town that skated.
Especially on the East Coast, I imagine.
Yeah, and in a small corner of southeastern Connecticut, we skated, and then, I made friends with a couple other skaters, and then eventually we had heard about these legendary guys called the Stains. And,
the Stains?
Yeah, Stains.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, the Stains, yeah, and it was this guy named Steve Maish and the McGrath brothers, Dennis McGrath.
Okay, yeah.
And you've probably heard of Dennis McGrath.
Yep.
He's a photographer. He lives in Frisco. And his brother John McGrath, and there was three of them. And they had a big, huge vert ramp right on the water on the Thames River in Groton. And so we had heard about it, and we'd had our moms drive us down there, and it was just kind of like they used to call it the mansion ramp. And, back then, you'd have locals like Bill Danforth coming through, and Fred Smith, and a lot of other gnarly underground East Coast like vert kind of guys.
It's crazy because Fred Smith, like every time I go out to Cali and I talk to a dude that's a little older skateboarder, they always know who Fred Smith is.
Yeah.
And I still am not really sure who he is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I missed that era in skating.
He actually lives down the street from my house. He's a local. I live in Newport, Rhode Island, and he's doing tattoos but yeah, he's one of the dudes that was really pioneering skateboarding in the New England area, one of many, and he was one of the guys that kind of caught a break and got to get sponsored, and then he was part of the Alva team.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's probably why everyone out there is like knows him because Alva is huge and
Yeah, and like I said, back then there was probably a dozen or 24 maybe known pro skateboarders from Massachusetts down to Florida or something.
Yeah.
We had a small collection back then, and back out in California there was obviously a bigger scene, a lot more parks, a lot more progression and stuff. So when those California guys would come to the East Coast, I think they would make friends with everybody out here. And Freddie actually later opened a skateboard park in Providence, Rhode Island called the Skate Hut, and that was a place that me and a couple of my friends in Connecticut would drive to Rhode Island to skate, and it was a pretty gnarly place. It was like this dungeon type of a brick building, and inside was a 13-foot tall vert ramp with pool coping on one side, and we'd go there almost every Saturday, and they had a bowl which was completely gnarly. We didn't even know how to turn through.
It was mostly tranny. The place.
Yeah, it was
then.
for sure like more of a tranny park. And at one point they actually took the bowl away and made a small street course, which wasn't the best decision, but at the time skateboarding had changed into more of a street thing.
Yeah.
And I think shortly after they took the bowl away and made that street course, the whole park probably had closed maybe a year later, which was a bummer. But
so what I'm wondering is, do you I have a list of top dudes that I've always liked their skating. Maybe their skating has influenced me, maybe not, but for whatever reason I'm just psyched on their skating, and like BA, you, Susky, Nesser, just dudes like that I'm like, I like how they skate, I like how they represent themselves. Do you have a list of a top three, or is there anyone that you just like what they're doing in skateboarding?
Yeah.
As growing up too, maybe not so much now, but growing up, was there a top three?
Yeah, but it always sort of revolved. I was into a lot of people skating. Mainly in the early days, we had a half pipe at my friend Jason's house that his dad had built us, and so Jason always would get like the new Santa Cruz videos, and we had all the Powell videos before that, and so you know, we skated from place to place on our, you know, all around town on our skateboards, but like the big thing that we did was session the half pipe, you know, and it was 6 feet tall with 7-foot transitions, and initially it was 12 feet wide, and then we ended up adding on to it, and it was 24 eventually, which made for a bigger ramp, and we had progressed and kind of grown out of the 12-foot wide ramp at that point. But yeah, all those little baby steps of learning all the tricks and stuff, and watching all the early skate videos, you know, half pipe was kind of like, you know, that was our thing, you know, let's skate the ramp and let's get better, and we can kind of, you know, mimic and sort of copy what those dudes are doing in the videos. And so in the early days, I think Eric Jessen was absolutely like my favorite skater. Yeah, and
did you do a graphic that was like an Eric Jessen graphic, or am I tripping? The Birdhouse one, or? No,
that was a Neil
Blender.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah. And Neil Blender was actually another guy that we were really psyched on, because he seemed like he was just kind of like strange and innovative.
Yeah.
And in some of those early Powell videos, he had little clips skating with Lance and Lance Mountain.
Yeah.
And we just thought he was just like the coolest dude. and then we, you know, you'd always see pictures of his doodling and artwork and stuff. So that was kind of unique, and we really fell for that. So yeah, like in Lance Mountain was another one that I was really psyched on coming up, and all the Bones Brigade for that matter.
Did most of those dudes you just mentioned, I know Lance is tranny, Dressen, they're all like mostly skated tranny.
Yeah, but then Eric Dressen would show up at a street event and kill it, and just explode like a time bomb and win it, you know. And that was, I remember even reading that in a magazine, like Eric Dressen explodes, you know, skates like a ticking time bomb or something, you know. And that was another thing that kind of like was thrilling to have him as a favorite skater, because he you know, he seemed like he was aggressive a bit, and he wasn't scared to go for it, I think, and that, for whatever reason, just, you know, got me hyped, you know.
When I started skating in New Hampshire, we had a mini ramp, and that was pretty much all we had, that and flat ground.
Yeah.
So like we'd always go and skate the mini ramp, and it was sick to like. I feel like on the East Coast you tend to learn how to skate tranny more, just because you're forced to, because the winters and you're stuck, and I think that's something that made you stand out, is you skated like tranny really well. Like even when skating went mostly street, you still had like kind of street tranny stuff, you know what I mean? You're like, I think that helps make you stand out a lot in the industry, and definitely made me want to learn pivot fakies. For sure, dude. I think that's definitely why I learned pivot fakies. And my friend Dale learned them because of you, and then we'd just compete and be like, oh, we gotta learn this, you know. So that's tight.
Yeah, throughout the like the early days, we would skate everything. I mean, you know, the funny thing, we would skate the ramp on a Saturday, and by noontime, you know, we'd be a little bit pooped and we'd want to change. So like, you know, we'd have our helmets on and our elbow pads and our knee pads, and so we'd like just push our knee pads down to our ankles and just push down the street. Picture driving your car back in like 1985.
Yeah.
You know, 1986 or something, and looking out of the right-hand side of your car, and on the sidewalk is 3, you know, 14-year-old kids.
Pads with dangling off.
Yeah, helmets, like pink shorts, like, you know.
Pink shorts?
Yeah, or whatever. Like, 'cause back then it was like we were rocking. I remember Jason had like a McGill board, and I had a Kevin Staub board with pink grip tape and pink nose guard, and
that dude's still going.
Yeah, he's killing it. I know him now, and it's cool to have had the chance to tell him, dude, my second board ever was a Kevin Staub, and right on, and then traveled with him a little bit. He's the best.
Was he always like out, like his gear's always like, when I see him now, his gear's like out there, like crazy, different, unique. Was he always like that?
Yeah. He always had like a pretty expressive fashion look to himself, which was rad, you know.
Cool, yeah, it's,
you know?
Different, unique.
And especially during that period of the 80s in skateboarding, that was common, you know, and that was kind of like what a lot of the guys did. Even the gnarly dudes, you know, the gnarliest dudes out there were wearing like kind of funny stuff, like
some pink like
visor. Yeah. But like, you know, we never questioned it. You know, it was a new subculture that we were involved in and we were psyched on, and we lived every moment of our brains was part of that subculture, you know, and absorbing everything that we'd see in magazines and in the videos. And I mean, they'd even have surfing on ESPN back in the day, and we were glued to that as well, and we weren't even really exposed to surfing during that time. We wanted to be.
It was just cool.
It was like, cool. A different sort of subculture similar to what our love for skateboarding was, and we just, anyway, yeah. Same with BMX, man, it's like you're 12 years old. Anything with wheels on it that's cool.
You're just
seems
like,
flawless.
I want to go jump off
So like somebody ended up stealing my bike cuz I had like a red line bike, and then I was really bummed. Super bummed. So I started saving money and eventually had enough to go buy another bike. And when I went to the bike shop, I saw all these new boards. I saw this new Hasoi board, and these boards were really wide, different than the banana boards that we were cruising around on.
Yeah.
Because we had found all these banana boards throughout the years, just in people's trash and
I think
stuff.
one of my first ones was like a weird little banana board.
Yeah, it's like everybody's had like a banana board in the garage at some, for whatever reason, from an aunt and uncle or whatever.
It was an aunt for me.
Yeah. And so once I went to go buy a bike and saw these unique wider boards, I thought like that was just the coolest thing on the whole planet. It was ridiculous how captivated I was. And I had heard about Hasoi, and I knew he had like a Rising Sun graphic, so they had a Sims Kamikaze there. And it was actually, it didn't even have his name on it. It just said Sims Kamikaze. But I thought, at the time, I thought it was...
Sounds like associated with Christian.
Yeah. He had already left Sims and gone on to ride for maybe Dogtown or something. I don't know all the details of the history then, but... Yeah, so I thought I was getting a soy board, but it was in fact a Sims Kamikaze. So they kept his graphic, took his name off the board, and kept the board out, you know. But whatever. I had that Sims Kamikaze for over a year, and had... Sims Pro, Sims Street wheels on there, and I had Going Pro 3 trucks, and obviously all the nose guards and tail guards, and that was my first board. And
that thing must have been heavy.
Yeah, it was, but like it was just the smoothest ride. It was like a Cadillac, and I mean I was tiny, but I pushed that thing. I probably put hundreds of miles on that thing, skating from my house to Jason's house, which is about a mile, and I would skate to the ramp and back, easily once a day, you know. And
I kind of want to ask you, what is your role? Because I know you're working for Element now.
Yeah.
So what is your title and what do you do? What's your position there?
So I do retail relations, and I do that for Element and Plan B.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And I do the whole country, North America. So what I do is just pretty much communicate with a lot of the stores out there that we want to build business with, and just get involved with the buyers and the owners, and just do my best to build a relationship.
Is that something that you went to school for? Or is it just through knowing the right people and having a name in skateboarding and just being personable?
Well, I mean, I went to college for video, radio production, and telecommunications, but this is actually nothing related to what I went to college for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What happened was through my career, toward the end there, during my career, I was with New York, and then my contract ended, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and at the time I just became a dad and bought a house and.
Charlotte.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So life got really interesting during that time, and I started to build a resume, and in the meantime I was like, landscaping and doing all these crazy odd jobs just to sort of take care of the overhead, because my skateboard money had kind of come to an end. And rather than go film a video part and try to, I just kind of like wanted to just take a different path. I wanted to continue skateboarding, but like it just seemed like, I don't know, I just...
seems like just growth in a different direction. You can always still skate. I think I touched on this with Nick a little bit in the last podcast. I was like, you can still skate and do other things as well, like you could even, and that's something that it sounds like you were like, you know what?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, man, I was like wearing myself out a little bit. I had a few bad injuries that like really kind of woke me up a little bit. And, I hurt my ribs pretty bad, and that was like a good year of like just really tough, like, coping with it.
Yeah, your ribs are, I've had a cracked rib before, and it's brutal.
Yeah, and then, you know, a couple other small injuries and stuff. So, like, I kind of realized in my heart that my participation was starting to slow down a little bit. And becoming a father was just like this incredible thing that gave me this unconditional love, you know. And as Charlotte started to get, like, older, like, you know, progressing into all these different stages, you know, she became, you know, then she's like 2 years old, and she's like talking to me, and we're having so much fun interacting and growing together. And it just, like, kind of warmed me to a point where, like, I was just like, man, like, you know, I don't really think I want to kill myself anymore doing this skateboard stuff. Like, I kind of just want to, like, bring it back and enjoy it, and kind of take maybe the remainder of my skateboarding life and be selfish and have it for myself,
but
and go ride for my own terms and stuff like that, you know. And then at the same time, like, there really wasn't a ton of opportunity for me. Then I didn't go knocking on doors, and I didn't go begging for an opportunity as far as, like, hey, you know, let me have a pro board here or there. I kind of just built my resume and kind of went knocking on doors for work, you know, which was rad, because I felt like I had a lot of experience in the industry, and I wanted to see if I could, you know, see where I could take it, you know. And so I applied for this job for Vans to be like a virtual merchandiser for New England, meaning I would travel around New England and kind of set up window displays and stuff, and work with the sales team to build up accounts and what have you.
Yeah.
And so that was an opportunity that it was like inches, you know. I was interviewing I interviewed with a few different people for the position, and they were stoked, you know. They were like, right on, Donnie, like, sick, man. And, you know, it seemed like everybody was like psyched that.
It seems like you'd be perfect for that, because you have a name and you've been in the industry, you're well established. So, like, having Donnie come to the shop is, like, for shop owners, probably a pretty good treat. You know?
And for me, I was just looking for a new starting point, you know. And so then the Vans dudes called and were like, hey, we just don't have enough business in New England right now to have a virtual merchandiser, so we're going to just kind of put that whole position on ice until business in New England starts to grow bigger. You know? So that was a disappointment, because I really thought that I had that position, and so I went back to, like, landscaping and stuff like that. And then I talked to Johnny from Element, and I talked to my old team manager from Element, Ryan Kingman, and then also the sales manager, this guy Kevin, who's awesome. And so anyway, they kind of offered me a couple different opportunities. They wanted me to take over a sales position, like, on the East Coast, you know, in one of the territories.
And you knew these people from when you were
skating? Because I had ridden for Element before. And so it was pretty cool that they were really trying to throw me a bone.
Yeah,
you know?
Awesome.
And so that was like, whew, you know, all right, this might work, but I didn't really want to be a sales rep. You know, I just, you know, especially in a struggling economy, you know, a sales rep, it's just like you get your cut for as much as you
do,
product you move, and I was just like, man, that would be.
It's like, how do you get a cut if it's hard to, like, people can barely buy this stuff, you know? So yeah.
For sure, yeah. And then they also wanted me to move, you know, and I had the house, you know. So I was just like, man, I don't really want to do that. And then they were like, well, hey, so they gave me, like, this hybrid position, and it was pretty, you know, entry level. You know, and they didn't really, like, demand me to do a heck of a lot. So, like, the first year I kind of felt like I was, you know,
sponsor skater again.
I don't know. It's just kind of like, hey, like, you know, let me help out. And so I got involved with their contest series and went on a lot of their contest series stops, you know, which is really cool. And I helped out with a lot of, maybe, you know, we'd have discussions about where the brand was going and what their goals were with the brand and certain, you know, depths or whatever. And then, like, but in general, you know, I was getting to know different accounts from, you know, Maine to Florida, because in the beginning I was just doing retail relations for the East Coast. And then I was contributing whatever else I could contribute, just because I wanted to contribute, you know. So, you know, although the name of my job is called retail relations, like, I definitely feel like I have my hands in different aspects of the brand, you know. So it's cool. The marketing director is killer. His name's Mark, and, like, he and I have conversations about, like, what we can do to next year or whatever, and, like, I'll bring ideas to the table, and they'll bring awesome ideas to the table. So I'm, like, kind of involved in a lot more than just, like, what my title is, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, because you've done it, you've been there, you've seen it, you've skated, you've been the pro, so it's cool to, like.
Yeah, and I'm stoked that they have ears for me. You know what I mean?
That's
and then just over like last July or whatever, the skate shop closed in February actually. My skate shop, Fountain Youth. And then once the shop closed, like I had a lot of more availability as far as time goes. So I was just like, hey guys, like, can I do retail relations for North America? Because I've got a bunch of accounts that I'm familiar with from my past travels. You know, let me knock on those doors and make those phone calls and see if I can't build some more business for you guys.
Yeah, because basically when you're on tour, you're going and you're doing signings at the shop, and if you're aware, you can make relationships with the owners, and that could help you, and that seems like what
and I had
right.
done I mean, you know, I traveled everywhere, you know, domestic and international for a long time.
That's what
I
was say. How long do you think that your career spanned it? You've had a pretty long career.
Yeah.
In skateboarding, like it's been
a while. I'm 39. I went pro when I was like 23 or 24 actually, and I think it's been maybe 15 or 16 years. That's
awesome.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I never even.
That's impressive.
I took a bus to California initially, hoping that I could get sponsored or meet some people and get to ride with the greats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that evolved into some opportunities that happened, and then before you knew it, I was an amateur for Toy Machine, and then shortly after that, a professional.
It's right, because like there's a lot of people that get sponsored, and they get like a 2-year, 3-year window top. So to be able to span that through 15 years, it's not many people are able to pull it off. Like that's a lot of skateboarding for sure, and that's awesome. Let's talk about I know we're kind of going backwards and we're jumping around, but we'll just touch on it wherever. Let's talk about how you got first sponsored, because we talked about where you grew up. How did you find out about getting sponsored, and like who was the first people to hook you up, and like did you go after it? Did you send sponsor me tapes? Like how did that work out?
No, I never even. I mean, we have actually some old footage of us cruising around on that half pipe I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Man, I never filmed a sponsor me video or anything. We found out about sponsored skateboarding through friends that skated at this skate park called the Playground, and the Playground skate park was in Wallingford, Connecticut, and so we frequented that place. And some of the locals that skated there were, Jim Greco, Keenan Milton, a lot of the New York guys, Jeff Pang, Gino Keenan, Tim Upson. A lot of these rippers, and like people would come from Pennsylvania, like Buster Halterman and Barker Barrett and Tom Boyle.
Barker Barrett's so good at mini ramp.
Yeah, Ricky Iola came through there a couple times. I met Bam there actually. Bam was like 10, made friends with him.
He was like a big 10-year-old too, like a pudgy little guy.
Yeah, and I was tiny, tiny with freckles.
Sick.
And a white helmet.
Were you a ginger? Because you're not a ginger now.
No. I was always just this little blonde-haired kid, but my beard comes in kind of
a little red.
Yeah,
mine does too, a little bit on the sides when it gets long enough.
So
going to the Playground.
Yeah, we just we like the pros would come through sometimes, and we just holy crap, and we'd always be out in the parking lot trying to buy like used product off them or new product because they'd sell it to us for cheaper or whatever, and we'd ask them like what was going on with what, and so you just kind of like learn along the way. And then I graduated high school, went to college for 2 years. During that time I was skating. I was going to school in Providence, going to college, and then I'd skate with Popecki all the time at this other skate park called Skater's Edge, and he was
it Skater's Island?
No, Skater's Edge, just like Taunton.
Oh, there was another Skater's Edge?
Yeah.
Wow, you're schooling me right now.
Yeah, it was in Warwick, Rhode Island. It was this little teeny thing, yeah. And one day Lance Dawes and Kelch and Henry Sanchez and a few of those guys came through to do a demo.
They're all West Coast dudes, right?
Yeah, they were doing a real demo for real skateboards. Kelch had just gone pro. And we're skating this 4-foot mini ramp with an extension, and then I did a frontside ollie to Disaster, and Lance shot a picture of it, and I ended up getting my first picture in a magazine.
Which magazine?
Slap.
Damn, sick.
Yeah, and
so it's a frontside ollie?
To Disaster, yeah.
Was it a sequence or was it?
No, it's just a still.
Sick.
Yeah, it was just a still. I'm pretty sure I had a helmet on and
sick.
Some elbow pads.
That was okay back then, though.
Yeah, it was totally
normal.
Yeah, I remember like chilling with Couch and stuff, and he was a riot, total riot. And Dave Meddy was there, and he was murdering the mini ramp. He did so many tricks that I'd never seen before. But yeah, that like picture, getting the picture in the magazine was awesome too, because that kind of like, oh crap. Yeah.
Stopped again, dude. All right, we're gonna try it one more time if it.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
Yeah. So basically, I guess where I left off was when I got that picture in that Slap magazine, you know,
your first photo.
Yeah, like
Nice.
I showed it to my mom and my dad, who supported me doing whatever I wanted to do my whole entire life, but skateboarding was kind of like this unknown thing at that point, you know?
Yeah, it was like, no, back then it was like you're a pioneer because you didn't know if you could make a living or what the deal is, I imagine.
Yeah, and like...
Especially on the East Coast anyways.
Yeah, so, you know, they let me do what I wanted to do, but like, you know, they weren't trying to go out and buy me new decks and stuff like that, you know? It was my responsibility to save up for what I wanted to buy to supply myself to skateboard.
Were they set when you showed them the Slap photo?
Yeah, that was rad, because that was just kind of like, oh wow, like, you know, they kind of had like a little bit more belief in like what I was doing. You know? Was it belief that you could do it, or was it belief that there's an actual industry? Yeah, I don't think my parents didn't like doubt me or anything like that. You know, they was just more like they were just like kind of ignorant to what was out there for skateboarding. Like,
yeah,
you know
like
what I
who
mean?
knows if you could even do it as a job.
Right, they'd see us doing, watching all the videos and stuff, and they just kind of laugh, and, you know, they just thought, you know, skateboarding was like a, you know, pogo sticking or something, you know what I mean? It just wasn't really like a,
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's way different than
skateboarding had to like prove itself to everything for sure. Like pogo sticks phased out. Hopefully scooters do too. Die scooters. Sorry kids.
Yeah, so
they seen your photo.
Yeah, they were pretty pumped, and then like, you know, I think I started I was in college, and then I graduated from college, and that summer I think Buster Halterman came through to skate the park in Connecticut, and he said he was talking about Woodward, and I was so stoked to talk to Buster, and we had, you know, watched all his video parts, him and Chris Miller, and just like, oh my god, so they were our favorites, you know, so stylish and stuff, and we wanted to skate vert just like him, and yeah, he told me that if I wanted to work at Woodward, to put his name on the application.
Oh, so like as a reference.
Yeah, so like I called Woodward, they sent me the application, and then I put his name on it, and then Woodward called me and said, hey, you want to come work? And I had just graduated with my associate's degree from college, and my parents were like, build your resume, and so I built my resume, and then I actually just took off. And, well, my parents brought me to Pennsylvania and dropped me there for the beginning of the summer to work at the camp as a dishwasher.
Yeah.
You know, my dad wasn't really too thrilled because he wanted me to do something with my education, you know?
Yeah.
Because he had just paid for it.
Of course.
Thank you, Dad. And thank you, Mom. But, like, yeah, and I just wanted to go skateboard out in Pennsylvania on these ramps, you know?
Sometimes you can't help your fate, man.
No, but they kind of, like, did their best to sort of hold me down on that one. They drove me down there, and, you know, and then they were like, okay, we'll give you the summer to go, you know, soil your wild oats, and then kind of like thinking like, well, when you come back after the summer, it's time to like
licking your wounds, like
put that degree that we just paid for to good work, and you're gonna go get like a real man's job type thing. You know?
Yeah.
So I worked at Woodward, and I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks, and then I ended up becoming like an instructor, and then they wanted me to be a counselor, and next thing you know, I'm there for 12 weeks straight.
Damn.
Throughout that 12 weeks, like all these pro teams came through, and I ended up meeting like, you know, the Toy Machine guys, Ed Templeton, and the Birdhouse guys.
Oh, okay.
You know, and then I met the Think team because they came through, and that was like Phil Shaw, Dan Hobel, Matt Pales, Wade Spare, and Wade Spare was like definitely like
the dude,
man. Like he was like my new Eric Dressen, you know, like he was like my new favorite, you know, around that time. And so he and I were skating the bowl, and then just out of the blue, he just walked up and was like, dude, you got to skate for Think, man, you know. And
damn, that must have been a trip.
Yeah, it was. It was insane. And so...
And that was at Woodward?
Yeah.
Damn, sick.
Yeah, so...
Damn, Think's team was so sick.
It was gnarly.
That was a gnarly lineup.
Yeah.
Hey.
So then then I moved out to San Francisco and kind of went out there blind and you know, stayed with a few people.
Wait. Let's not jump this.
Yeah.
So you're at Woodward. He comes up to you, asks you to ride for Think.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? Do you go back home and tell your parents?
Yeah. I went home.
I'm out.
Yep, I went home.
How'd they handle that? Like they wanted to get a real job.
You know, my dad was pretty. You know, what are you gonna do? And you know, and I was like, well, I'd saved up money working at Woodward, so I bought myself a plane ticket to go out to to San Diego again.
They actually they do pay you at Woodward to like wash dishes and stuff. You get like.
Well, I didn't get paid to wash dishes. I got paid to be an instructor.
Oh, okay.
And I got paid another check to be a counselor.
Oh, sweet.
So I think I made like $130 a week, you know. And
you live for free there, pretty
correct,
much. You
correct.
get all
I
the
spent
food,
maybe like $10 a week on
candy. And
something, you know. So yeah, I had stacked up some dough for this 12-week summer.
Cool.
Had like $2,000 or something, and bought a plane ticket for $500. Went to San Diego. We were at one of the trade shows, and then a bunch of my buddies from back east were there, and they were like, "We're going to San Francisco." So I jumped in with them, without a plan, without anything. Didn't know what I was doing.
Just
you know.
Free spirit, dude.
Yep. Ended up in San Francisco. No place to go. Go down to Embarcadero, run into some people down there, say hello.
And did you know about like just through videos and magazines about that scene and everything?
Oh yeah.
You knew all that,
Oh
right?
man, I knew like, you know, as soon as I showed up there was James Kelt and LeVar McBride, and it was crazy, you know. And I just like tried to fit in, and everybody's pretty chilling, man. Everybody's cool. And then I remember I ran into Chris Sen, who I had met in Connecticut years ago, and I met him at Woodward too. And he's like, "Come stay at my house for a couple days." And
sorry to interrupt, but that dude is like one of my favorites.
Yeah,
so
he's
fast.
the best
so
dude
fast,
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I lived with Chris Sen for probably, come stay for a couple days, and that was like a 4-month run, you know.
It was like Woodward, you're like, I'm gonna go for 12 days.
Yeah, he was going to art school, and his first son had just been born, so he would go to art school every day, and I'd just go skating, you know.
Yeah.
And I tried to like be invisible as much as possible, and me being invisible like led me to stay there for like 4 months, and then finally he's like, "Dude, you gotta go," you know.
Yeah.
And it was random because I was skating out at that like Lincoln School out in the avenues of San Francisco, and I run into this dude that looks super familiar, and I'm like, "Who is that tall, skinny dude? Like, I know that guy." And it was Rob Welsh.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, and he had just moved out there, and I had skated Boston Financial District with that dude like a couple years prior, and I remember we had a sick time because he was ripping, and I was like, "You're from Maine? Crazy."
Yeah.
I have relatives from Maine. I'm from Connecticut, and we made friends, and then here we are in San Francisco, and there he is.
Both going for
Yeah.
it. Yeah, like.
And I'm like, "Holy shit!" And he's like, "Yeah, man, I live over here. Come chill," you know. And we went over to his house, and there's Satva, living, his roommate, and then
was Satva on Toy Machine then?
No,
okay,
he was trying to be, and there was like 4 dudes living in this 2-bedroom, you know. And so
Skate
like
house,
so I like stayed on the couch for a day or two, and that turned into another 4 months.
Oh, sick.
You know.
You don't have to pay rent in any of these spots.
No,
it's like, hey, stay.
No, and a matter of fact, like I had $2 in my pocket at the most, like every day, you know. So it'd be like, here's an old think board. I'd go down to Haight Street and try to sell an old used, think board
Get
for
like $10.
$12. Yeah, go buy a piece of pizza for $1.25, and then like buy a 40-ounce of beer for 99 cents, or something, whatever I could, and it worked out. Those dudes looked out for me and took good care of me, and I'm sure they were over it, And a matter of fact, eventually they kicked me out of there, but I had met this girl, so I went to Santa Cruz and stayed with the girl that I had met, and we were kind of dating, and then I ended up Satva got on Toy Machine, and then I ended up getting on Toy Machine shortly after.
Just through knowing Satva and like talking.
Yeah, and I had met Jamie Thomas, years ago, and like.
What was the team then? It was Jamie, Satva, Ed.
Panama Dan.
Was Musk on then?
No. Yeah, he'd gotten on right before.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was rad, dude, getting sponsored by Toy Machine. I couldn't believe it because I'd get boxes, and sometimes Foundation gear would be in there.
Oh, sick, yeah.
And everything in the box would just be so cool.
Yeah.
And I'd just stare at everything, touch it, and put the shirts on, and just look at it and be like, I can't believe this. This is so insane.
That's the trip, yeah.
And then when I got sponsored by them, they actually sent me a letter, and everybody wrote something and signed it, and I actually have the letter.
Everyone on the team?
Yeah.
Damn, that's
sick.
And so they were like all down for it. They all talked. It was like that close knit.
Yeah.
That's sick, dude.
It was insane. Yeah. And then we ended up going on some filming trips, and I just took advantage of every chance to get tricks on film.
Well, what did they write? Did they all sign it, or did they each write?
They all wrote something. Like Ed wrote, "Welcome to the team, Donnie," and then signed it. And then Chad Muska wrote, like, awesome, like, "Welcome to the team, Donnie. Love Chad Muska." But it was rad because what Muska wrote. He wrote it in like this crazy like gangster gangster font because he used to be a gnarly he used to really get out there and do the graffiti stuff.
Yeah.
And he had like a lot of notebooks where he did a lot of that like crazy like cholo type
sick, yeah.
fonts, you know, because he lived in Arizona and he lived in Vegas, and I don't know, another aspect of Chad Muska that people don't really know too much about, but he was an ill artist. So yeah, I still have that letter though.
That's rad, dude. That's such a cool thing to keep.
Yeah.
Don't ever don't
I have
throw it on eBay.
No.
Scoop that up.
Yeah, man. So and then right after that, Dan Wolf, who I had met prior or whatever, he was doing that Underachievers video, and he asked me if I wanted to get some clips for it. So we got some clips around San Francisco, and he was impressed and decided he wanted to try to give me a part. And then I was like completely all in for that opportunity. So I told Ed I needed to fly back to the East Coast to film in Boston and Philly and stuff. So he bought me a ticket.
Why did you decide to do that? I mean,
well, Dan came out to San Francisco to film.
And he was out on the
He was out in Pennsylvania,
okay.
yeah. So then he's like, well, hey, man, I'm only out here for a couple of weeks, but if you can come back to the East Coast, it'd be killer, you know?
Yeah.
And so when I ended up going out there, I flew back out. And
did you pay for the flight yourself?
No, Ed and Todd Swank bought the ticket for me because I told them I had an opportunity to be in the video part, and I thought it was a good investment for them.
Yeah, for sure.
See what I could do, you know, and what I could achieve for this video part. And then, I just worked with Dan for months. Out there skating in Boston, skating in Philly, and everywhere else, DC, you know, Wilmington, Delaware, and we just stacked clips, and we stayed with Ricky Iola for a long time, and it was rad, man. That was you know the beginning of like me trying to sort of like have a voice in skateboarding.
I mean, I think it did its job, because I know a lot of people love that video part, and that's a big part of skate history. Like, I'm sure I could interview 20 pros and they would throw that in their top 5 for sure, dude.
Yeah,
so you did a good job.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks. At the time, like I said, we were, you know, I was just trying to tap into, you know, as much depth as I could pull out of myself, you know, as far as, you know, advancing my skateboarding, you know. So we'd be in Boston looking around for spots, and we'd stumble upon something and just, all right, like, I think I might try to grind this thing, you know, and not really knowing I had the ability to do it, and just building, and half hour later I got the clip, you know, and
that's awesome.
Same thing that, you know, anybody would do today, but like, I feel like back then, skateboarding was just like more, it was in a different position or stance or place, you know. So like what we were trying to do was we were trying to
progress it and
give skateboarding something that maybe it hasn't seen, even though all those things have already been achieved and pioneered. Like, let's try to do those tricks in a different way and a different place, you know, where, you know, or something, I don't know. And at the time, like, a lot of the veterans knew that there was rad terrain to skate on the East Coast, but like nobody had really taken advantage of like what there really was there, you know?
For sure.
And mostly just the dudes that lived there, you know, would take advantage of it, you know. And so we'd find spots in Boston and try to tackle them and, you know, see if we could get clips, and we did our best.
I still feel that way with like the East Coast. I talk about that all the time. Boston, Providence. I always feel like you can still go there, and there's this stuff you can still find, and you can still push it. It's not oversaturated like when you go out to California or somewhere out there where it's just like everyone's attacking every spot. A new spot pops up, it's dead in a week. Knobs killed, people already got tricks, police are on it. Out here, I feel like there's still untouched areas. It's just, I love the East Coast.
Yeah.
I love these cities for sure.
Yeah, me too. You know, and I love everywhere I've been out west though as well. Like, you know, that's cool. Just I'm not that guy. You know, like everything that I've been able to see and experience on the West Coast has just been like mind blowing. You know. Yeah,
it's definitely like there's good and bad to each coast for sure. I talk about that all the time. Like, for sure, California is like the sun's always shining. It's beautiful. Like, there's a lot of good things.
But what's really cool is being able to have the ability to go out to the West Coast, soak up all that stuff like a sponge. You know, all the spots, all the people, all the vibes, all the tricks and the inspiration, and then like, you know, all of a sudden you go home and you're like this bottle of new energy and vibes, and then like you get to the East Coast and apply that,
kind of share it with everyone.
Yeah, and it's just like, whoa, like you bring new life back because you learned new life when you were out there. I don't know, I felt like that happened to me a lot. You know, I was able to,
Well, because like a lot of people don't get to do that out here. There's not that many pro skateboarders even to this day. We have more, obviously, but when you were doing it, definitely wasn't that many. So to go out there and come back, you're like the local hero, you know what I mean? So to come back and see the skate scene and just bring back all these stories, like energy for sure, man. It's hard to come up from the East Coast even today, and back then it was probably 10 times harder, you know. So to do it like is impressive, and that's definitely what I imagine. Like I still experience that now. I go on trips and I come back and I feel like I kind of just like I have some stories and excitement to talk about and new things I've seen, and it's like the skate community, and we all talk about it, and just kind of like everyone gets psyched, you know, and it bubbles up, and everyone gets psyched, and we go charge Boston and Providence, and same thing, dude. Yeah,
I remember coming back and you know, getting together with the old crew. We had a crew called Team 911.
All right.
And Brian Anderson, it was rad. Brian Anderson was in there, you know, and my best friend Jason Case, and a handful of others. And I'd come back from California and just, you know, find these guys and skate with them and talk about like what it's like and share the experiences with them. And like I hounded Brian Anderson, him, you know, like you have to, you know, go out to California. Like, you know, it's waiting for you and your skateboarding ability. Dude, he was, you know, so darn good at skating, you know.
He's a beast.
Yeah, and I just say, and like, so, you know, like I was saying, I like, you know, went out and absorbed everything like a sponge, and, you know, I was like this bottle of, you know, like a bottle of energy or whatever, and then like I brought the bottle back to the East Coast and opened it up and, hey Brian, drink some of this, you know, or whatever, and then like, you know.
Well, because for sure on the East Coast when you're here you skateboard, but it's not, the mindset's not like, hey, you can make it, you're gonna get sponsored. It's like, hey, I gotta finish high school, get a job, work. That's like the mentality. It's more blue collar. So you coming back from the West Coast with all these stories of like, oh, look at this is what's going on, like it's a whole movement, and then bringing it here for sure, man. Yeah,
and then you know, he ended up going out there and he was living in the Sackville area with some other friends from Connecticut, and then, you know, we ended up getting him attached to the whole toy machine thing eventually, which was magical, you know what I mean?
Such a heavy team, dude.
So it all ended up, you know, yeah.
How did you meet Brian originally? Like, where did you guys first meet?
Actually, when I was like 14 or something, I went to this carnival and there was fireworks. It was on the Navy base, and I like looked over and I seen a bunch of dudes that looked like skaters, and one of them was Brian, and he had like the blonde like hair, and it was coming across like Bones Brigade style, and he had like a jean jacket with a bunch of punk rock band pins on it and stuff, and I think he might have had like a bandana around his wrist or something, you know. He was kind of like
flared up
a little bit, you know what I mean, and his boys, you know, kind of had like Vision Streetwear on or Airwalks on or something, so I knew that those fools skated, and I kept on like scoping them out, like what, like, and they were like checking me out, like, dude, that guy has Vision Streetwears on too or something, you know. So like I saw, like, you know, it's like there's like some of my kind over there, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And then like I think like about like 2 weeks later or something, we're skating Jason's ramp, and like up the driveway we see a couple kids walking with boards under their arm, and it was Brian and his buddy Joe. And they had heard about the airport ramp, you know, and so they just had their parents drop them off like downtown, and then they like snuck and skated over to the airport ramp and walked up the driveway because they saw us skating.
That's
and
right.
They like walked up, didn't say anything, they're like staring at us, and we're staring at them, and we're skating, and like we're kind of just like, then like after like 10 minutes we're like,
dude, just skate.
Like Brian was like, hey, am I right on the ramp, you know, and like we're just like, I guess it's okay, yeah, sure. You know, and then him and his friend Joe started pumping around, and like, dude, within like an hour, Brian like learned a bunch of new tricks, and like, you know, and then by the end of the day, it was like, dude, Jason, man, it's crazy. Like, we thought we were the only ones. Now there's Brian and Joe, and then like, you know, later like our scene grew, and there was more of us like over time, you know.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was just like me and Jason like trying to learn how to pump on his ramp, and like learned how to turn front side, and like, you know,
it must have been cool to have like a new crew for sure. Like,
yeah, and Brian was like super like expressive on street. His street ability was gnarly, you know, like he actually could fling 360 flips, I don't think he was landing them yet, but we were tripping out because we could do kick flips and varial kick flips, and I think I could do heel flips and shove-its and stuff, but like Brian was like next level, and he cruised around street like Tommy Guerrero, you know? So we were like, oh, like, dude, we'll teach him how to ride the ramp better, and then we'll have him teach us how to do all that street shit.
Sick.
You know what I mean? And it's crazy. I mean, none of this was ever talked about. Like, we didn't talk about it, we didn't say it. It was
just what it is.
Yeah, like, dude, I want to skate with that guy Brian more, you know? And then we'd go and skate. He lived on the other side of town, so, like, we'd go to stay at, our parents would bring us to his house, and we'd explore, like, his whole zone. And, like, dude, Brian's got mad spots over by his house, you know? And so it was killer.
You're still, like, good friends with Brian?
Yeah. I was supposed to actually go to the premiere in New York the other day, but
oh, that's right, dude.
He got me a ticket, and but I just got buried with family stuff, so I was like, I'm just gonna buy it when it comes out on I think it comes out tomorrow.
Damn, sick. I'm so hyped to see that video.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a break from that, and I want to kind of get to some of the questions that people ask me on my Instagram and my Facebook and Twitter and stuff.
Yep.
This one is from Steven at Focus.
All right.
He said, is it awkward when someone uses the term barley grind in front of you?
Nah, there was a time where it was a little awkward. When I was a little bit younger, you know, a lot more insecure and a lot more kind of freaked out by, like, you know, like I was proud of myself for finding success in skating and, you know, and whatnot, but I think it was just, like, strange to have a name, like a trick, you know, like I actually started doing the tricks, and then it was printed in a magazine that it was called the Barley Grind, you know, and I was kind of like, whoa, and then it seemed like everybody was just starting to call it a Barley Grind, you know?
Yeah, it seems like that's a certain level of success in skateboarding. If you can get a trick named after yourself, that's kind of history, you know what I mean? Like, that's going to be there, especially in print, so I could see it being kind of awkward a little bit in the beginning. Yeah,
and I was really, really shy, and you know, so I was
Do you ever call it the Barley Grind?
No, I don't think I ever have, actually.
No, you're just like, I'm going to go do that.
Yeah, I usually, like, I'll do frontside 180 switch Smith over here, or like, hey, I might switch 180 Smith on that thing over there, you know?
Was that something that you saw in a video, or is that just something you're like, oh, I think I could do this and try it?
Yeah, no, I was skating, I had lived with Tom Penny and Chad Muska in Newport Beach, California. Before that, I was, like, staying with Ed Templeton in Huntington. And Ed actually lived a block away from that Huntington Beach skate park. And at the Huntington Beach skate park was this really rad flat bar.
Yeah.
You ever skate that?
Yeah, I've been there. They took it out. I think the park's gone now.
Oh, really?
Unfortunately, they might have built a new one. But yeah, that flat bar was cool.
Yeah, and we used to just try to get down on that thing. And I remember Tom was super ahead of his time, and he was switchback lipping it and switch lipping it. And so, you know, Muska was doing nollie 180 to switch crook, and, you know, so I was, like, trying to bring my version of something unique to the sessions, you know.
Step it up and, like,
right.
That's sick.
So, I remember, you know, doing fakie ollie to switch Smith grind.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then, you know, different variations ended up coming, and I started fumbling with the switch 180 to Smith grind, and then I'd do switch 180 to Smith grind to 180 out, and then one day I was like, well, why don't I just do frontside 180 into a switch Smith grind, you know, see what happens. And then it started to work. And then I started to, like, get good at it, actually.
Yeah, that seems like an awkward one to have unlocked, but you do,
Yeah, and then I started to, like, figure out how to turn into it, and it just didn't really seem like it was really that difficult.
What about backside? Have you messed with it?
Yeah. I did a ton of that stuff, but what I would do is I would do fakie ollie into switch backside Smith grind.
Oh, I see.
And that was, like, the first version of the backside sort of thought process or whatever. And
it makes sense because you can get into it comfortably without missing it as much. Yeah.
And I always sucked at switch backside 180s because that shoulder movement just is always tough for me.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
So switch frontside boards and switch backside 180 to backside Smith just seemed like it was, like, way off in space, way beyond my reach, you know? And then, but the backside 181 that Matt Bennett does, the Bennett grind, right? That was, like, I was definitely, like, boggled, like, damn, dude, like, I want to be able to do that at some point, you know, and played with it for a while and landed it a handful of times, but it was never, like,
yours is frontside.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
All right, well, we got more questions. Let's see what this one is. All right. I think we already touched on this. This was when you were coming out, pros you looked up to. We already got that one. That was Bob Costa. What
I
up?
remember Bob.
What up, Bob? I know you're out there. The camera's off, so we don't have to worry about that. Bobby. All right. Corey Johnson wants to know, and welcome to hell, how many tries did it take for you to do the unforgettable barley grind and then the switch barley grind, and how does it feel to have a grind named after yourself? So, I mean, we already kind of talked about how it feels to have it named after you, but how many tries did it take to do that line?
The main thing I was starting to do was I was smith grinding the top rail. And then once I started doing that, I knew that I had to break the ice with trying to switch 180 to smith grind down it.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do switch 180 to 5.0. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
switch
just to get over it.
Yeah, and just feel good, you know?
Yeah.
And I did a few of those, I think, and then, I just started locking into Smith, and then eventually, I landed a couple, and I was like, okay, so it's possible, you know.
How far was that second rail from the first one? Was it a couple pushes?
No pushes.
It was just quick. Yeah.
Right, you had to kind of time your first trick.
Because it seems like if you got the first one, you'd be hyped enough to just all right, fuck it.
That's what it ended up happening, basically. Like, I had never done a frontside 180 switch Smith down a rail before.
Yeah.
I'd only done them on flat bars.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I was way more consistent at switch 180 landing into a Smith grind because Smith grind was like a strong trick for me, you know. So I was like, all right, if I can do if I land a clean switch 180 to Smith grind, I just have no choice but to just go for it on the switch 180 one. I mean on the 180
regular
switch Smith, you know. And so I had one attempt where I actually went for it, and instead of it going into Smith, I did I was almost into a hurricane or something.
Yeah, like an awkward board slide.
Yeah, it didn't lock, you know. But that was my first real all right, I'm gonna try to make it turn, and I was scared out of my wits, dude. I was scared out of my wits, dude.
I believe it,
you know, because I had never done it on a rail, and it just seemed back then that was 2 8-stair rails, and thinking back, that's tiny compared to what's going down now.
Yeah.
But at that stage, if you could do anything like a no slide on an 8-stair rail, you're on point. You know what I mean?
It seemed like those might have been the first ones on a rail, like a legit rail, like a front 180 to switch Smith. It seems like that was probably the first one I've ever seen on a rail, on a handrail.
It might have. I never saw anybody do it. But
if anyone out there knows, just write into us and let us know if anyone did it before Donny on a handrail. But I mean, that was definitely the ones that were the most famous for sure. That started the barley grind for sure. So you did the first one and then the second one. So how long did it take?
Then I think it just took a bunch of tries of me just getting the guts to come out of the switch 180 Smith grind perfect. And breathe a little bit in between the flat space, and just go for it, you know. And then it literally, I got the one, I locked on it, and then I just had my weight just right and came off the end of it. And as soon as I landed, it just didn't even seem real, dude. It did not even seem real. And Jamie Thomas was filming it, and he just was speechless. It was the coolest thing. He was so proud of me, man. You know, because we were trying to basically take this video project to the next level. And I had a lot of confidence because I had just done that Underachievers video with Dan. And Jamie was just taking his skating I mean, he was doing things that were impossible, you know.
Yeah, his part in that
grinding,
video.
the rails he was grinding were just not even really, I couldn't even, it was unreal.
The shit he did in that video, you could put it out today and still be like, oh, you know what I mean?
Ridiculous.
Comparable, yeah.
You know, so to hear, him just we're in the car driving back to his house, and I'm just kind of sitting there I didn't even feel like I was alive, dude. I was somewhere else, man. I was because I really, like I said, I wanted to try to bring a creative aspect to my skateboard, to my video part. I wanted to, Satva had the most creative skateboarding going on. He skated his nose really good. He could do nollie frontside crooked grinds and just jam it in there, and he had such a unique thing going on. And then Panama Dan, he could he had this unreal pop, and then Ed is Ed, and he had all the history and
front feebles,
and so I just had to find a way for myself to have an edge, so I had to make my edge, you know.
Yeah,
and that was like, you know, that was the one trick that was, you know, I had a trick list, you know, and that was the one that was like, that ain't going down. You know what I mean? It's just written there in the event that like I get inspired enough to just go kill myself. You know?
It's rad.
And then it came to fruition. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And then it's just like, you know,
it's just a testament to show like you really don't know what you're capable of until you get into it and try it. Like
exactly.
Because the fear and
anybody can do anything that they want if they just believe in themselves and put the effort in, dude. Straight up. I don't, you know, I mean, you have to have a degree of talent for sure. And I don't really enjoy watching skateboarding that's like
too robotic,
or too crazy, like someone's just living on a prayer, like that's, you know what I mean?
Well, no skill.
Yeah, you know, it's like, oh my God, like it's kind of dangerous, you know, you're praying for the, wow.
That's something I love about skating though, is like, and this is why I don't think skating should ever be a sport. And I mean, I know the people are trying to turn it into a sport with all these huge contests, but I really don't feel it should go that direction. I feel it should be more like music, like where it's self-expression. And it's like, if it's like that, it's rad, because then you can have the dude that maybe doesn't have that much skill but can still film a video part that's entertaining and people like, and then you have the people that have incredible skill and talent, you know. And I just feel like we shouldn't be boxed in these huge contests, and that shouldn't be like the only way to make money in skateboarding. There should be we need to keep pushing in, you know, videos and just find different ways to make monetize it, you know what I mean, if that's what you want to do as a professional. But yeah, so I mean, skateboarding is more self-expression, and I like that, and that's something that's, I'm sure you could agree, man. It's rad. There's so many different types of people, so many different types of skating. It's impossible to box it in.
Yeah,
it's impossible. Like, you can't, because then if you do, you miss out on so many awesome skateboarders and so many different ways to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree with everything that you just said. I mean, we've seen some people get ultra creative, like even just with their skating, with their music selection, and with their fashion. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you know, and yeah, it's just, there's room for everybody, I think.
Well, that's one of the reasons I want to do the podcast, was because I feel like skateboarders, it's not just tricks. You know what I mean? We're individuals in our travels and the lessons we learn from skating. The lessons we learn from skating have made us unique and different, and the way skating makes you look at the world makes you different and unique. And I feel like we have more than just tricks. Like, people have awesome stories and are inspirations, you know what I mean? Like, could inspire people, and I feel like there's so much more depth to skateboarders. I mean, to humans in general, but especially skateboarders, because that's the world I understand. There's such a depth to us, and I don't feel like there's an avenue to really share it. Like, you can say it in an interview, but you don't know if anyone's going to read it, and it's like, kids don't want to read it for the most part. They rip it open and they look through the magazine, and like, even I try to read as many as I can, but it just doesn't come across the same as hearing it in someone's voice. Like, you talking about doing the barley grind and Jamie being speechless, like, I could have read that in print and been like, that's sick, but seeing you and hearing you, it's like, I felt like I was in the moment. I felt like I was off to the side watching you do it and just seeing how awesome it was. Like, so I feel like the podcast helps to kind of like expose the inner you know what I mean? Like, not just tricks and other skateboarders, but not just tricks, but also like their beliefs and what they stand for and what drives them to skate and push themselves as individuals and people. And I'm sure you feel the same way, because you've met so many amazing skateboarders over the years. And
yeah, man, I've been able to meet almost everybody, you know, and it's pretty nuts, pretty blessed.
Hell yeah. All right, well, we'll go to another question. I sorry about my little rant there, but it's been awesome doing this, like with Nick and now with you. It's just been really a cool experience, and I want to keep going, because I even want to do outside of skateboarding. I want to do because I feel like my audience is going to be skateboarding, so it'd be cool to bring like maybe a business person in that owns business and talk to them and let them explain how they succeeded, and maybe skateboarders can pick that up and hear it, you know what I mean? Or an artist, a musician, or someone. All right, more questions. I got the most questions for Donny, because everyone was hitting up Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and got a lot of questions. Michael Worth wrote, back in the toy machine days, after Welcome to Hell, pre-jump off a building, there was a demo at the Pipe Skate Park in Janesville, Wisconsin. Donnie, you ripped it up. All the riders did, but 2 sat out. Which 2 and why? Do you even remember that? Wisconsin, Janesville is Pipe Skate Park. Apparently you were ripping, but two of the riders sat out. So it was Toy Machine days.
Before Welcome to Hell?
Yeah. No, after Welcome to Hell, pre-Jump Off a Building. So pretty much right there. Do you remember the demo?
No.
I mean, you've been all over the world, so that's kind of like...
I'm trying to remember Wisconsin.
The Pipe. I wonder if the park's still around. Let me look it up. Let's see. Maybe we can pull it up. Is it...
What's it called again?
The Pipe, P-I-P-E.
Pipe Skate Park? I wonder if it's an indoor...
Let's see. Maybe we can look it up. The Pipe Skate Park. W-I... Oh yeah, Janesville, right there. I don't know if this is gonna be. I'm sure they changed it a bit, but.
Yeah, I don't really think. I was gonna say Bam and Alyssa maybe, but that might have been before they were on the team.
Well, okay. Were they known to sit out of demos?
No, not at all, man. We all charged it. If somebody sat out, it's probably because they had like a big, huge ankle or somebody was hurt or something. Yeah, I mean, it was very, very uncommon for us to not open a big, huge can of whoop ass at a demo because that's pretty much what we thrived on doing, you know?
Yeah, like...
And that was like the Toy Machine motto. You show up and you just get blocked.
Dewey called... I don't even know how to pronounce... Dewey C. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. What's the gnarliest thing you saw in NYC? It's pretty general.
Gnarliest thing you saw in NYC? We actually went to see Jadakiss that time, remember?
Yeah, hell yeah.
That was pretty
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were for 9/11?
Yeah. I was actually living in Santa Monica. I had an apartment with TJ Ladd, and I woke up and I was actually scheduled to fly to Toronto with Heath Kirchart and a few other of the America guys. Yeah, Kenny Hughes lived down the street, and he called me up and was like, dude, turn on your TV. And I turned on the TV, and I couldn't even, believe what I was seeing,
Because I'm sure you had new skaters from New York and the whole thing. So. Yeah, man.
And then, like I said, I called my America team manager, Justin Regan, and he was like,
hell yeah.
You know what, we're not going anywhere. They're grounding all these flights, and we got to get to the bottom of what's going on here. So just stay put, don't go nowhere, and lay low,
Yeah,
and
man.
so we just kind of stayed glued to the TV. My dad called, my mom called, and we just kind of, sat back with, our mouths wide open, just kind of.
Dude, 9/11.
What the heck is going on right now?
Yeah, it was surreal.
And then I remember even after 9/11, like my attitude kind of changed, and I kind of almost found myself living a little bit more maybe recklessly, slightly, because it was like the first time in the history of my existence that there was a threat to, to what we were doing, so it kind of made you like gum. I mean, I felt like me personally, I like turned up my personal volume or something, because it was like it gave you the feeling that this could be your last day, so you better go big.
It kind of got rid of our false security of like the safety we have in this country. Like, you feel untouchable because America is such a gigantic fucking superpower that just polices the world, and it's crazy to think that like, hey, someone could just sacrifice their life to like destroy people, our country, and just having that having that hate, knowing that hate's out there and that people are willing to do that, definitely makes you feel like, hey, we're vulnerable for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
America, we've always felt like we're untouchable. No one's gonna come to our soil, but that smashed that whole illusion for sure, man.
Yeah, it was incomprehensible for quite a few days.
Hell yeah. Okay, we got another question. Nate Canneff. Will you ever let age get in the way of your skating?
My body's beat up a little bit right now. I got a couple little things going on with my back ankle, which sucks. I would love to be able to go get surgery and get that dialed in, but at the moment, like, my health insurance situation's a little crazy,
I'm sure it is for everyone.
Yeah.
Obamacare.
But like I'm still skating, man. You know, I'm out there whenever I get the chance. I work a lot. I got the kids and a lot of priorities and responsibilities to keep up with. So that stuff comes first, and I get on my board to reward myself when I get my work done.
Hell
you
yeah.
know, and I think I'll be skating for as long. I mean, I'm gonna skate for as long as I can. You know, and there's inspiration out there in the likes of Dwayne Peters and Lance Mountain and even older than that, and it's unbelievable.
Do you think we could ever see a Donny Barley like a pad up and vert like tranny like padded up doing like Lance Mountain kind of pools and shit like that? You think that?
I don't know. We'll see where the road takes us. I feel like my kids have been getting older, so fast, and I've actually found that as the older that they get, the more easy it is for me to slip out the back door and kind of like go sneak in a little skate session at the basketball court with the homies, or drive over here to hit the park or whatever it might be. And the older they get, the more ability I'll have to kind of like work on me, you know. And I'm kind of like, I'm thrilled at the moment that I'm at, and I don't want to change anything. I just want to live happily in the moment,
Hell yeah.
But for sure, in the back of my head, there's a little bit of like, oh shit, like, in a couple years from now, man, like, like you'll be able to do this, that, and the other, and so just be patient for right now, you know? And just telling myself that just to sort of get me, to sort of keep my skating desires like in a little bottle for now. You know what I mean? And we'll see. There might be it could blow up on my face. That bottle could break, and the desires could go away, or responsibility can overwhelm me to the point where I just can't get to where I want to get to. But I got kids to take care of, and that's my main goal, and that's what really fuels my heart right now.
And that's admirable.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I've had plenty of things to achieve. I've been able to achieve way more than I thought I could, and I had like a really nice decade and a half of experiences that no one can ever take away from me. You know what I mean? So like, rather than be selfish and put myself first, it's just I'm doing exactly what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah, it seems like you're on the right path.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I'm actually proud of myself for sort of, being able to lose a lot of that ego and lose a lot of that selfishness, and that becoming a father will strip all that from you, whether you like it or not.
I can imagine, dude.
It's a blessing, man. Yeah, it's great to, I mean, some of the tough times we went through, me and the wifey, they're all for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's a rad ride when you can see what has happened and look at it and not be take it for what it is and learn from it, or whatever,
It's kind of rad that like you've lived your life and you've experienced so much and you've grown to the point where you're able to create a life and allow that life to do the same thing, to go out there, to learn, to experience, and you're able to pass your knowledge and wisdom. It just comes full circle.
Yeah.
And it's rad that you're able to do that, and it's cool because you've had so much life experience, so many awesome experiences, so many, I'm sure, bad experiences too that come with it.
It's not all roses out there.
Yeah, so I feel that's rad to be able to pass those on. That's the definition of being a good parent, is living your life and understanding your life and your purpose, and then being able to kind of nurture your children to find their purpose, and you can give them jewels along the way as far as survival goes, and help them out, make it a little less of a struggle for the
and this is interesting too, because one thing that was a real big gear turner, like for my brain and for my life, was my father actually getting cancer, which was a tough one to swallow, obviously, and he fought it for well over a year, and eventually it got him, and he passed on. But like throughout that process, like there was just like a lot of like forced maturity, like I kind of couldn't, walk through certain doors, as like I had to I had to like physically, to get to the next level, I had to like physically beat the door down, you know, and to beat the door down, I had to like take my understanding of maturity to another understanding, you know. It's like weird because my dad passed, and I felt like within like a year of his passing, like that next year, like the growth during that year was like insane.
It kind of shook things up and made you rethink everything and start like looking in different directions.
Life came like a little look, you know, like it just you know, my father was like my biggest inspiration my whole entire life, you know, who he was, what he did, and what he stood for, and how he held it down. And it's insane. And to you know, to lose that inspiration was tough, bro, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But like it was a beautiful circle that it provided, you know, because you know, I got a lot out of it. You know?
Yeah, in the end, it's almost like, you know, his death caused you to grow in a better light, so it's kind of full circle in that aspect too.
Yeah, and you lost your dad.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's why, because when you were young, you carried a maturity about yourself that always boggled me.
Yeah.
And I bet you.
And it was
you know,
it was from losing a loved one for sure. It forced me to because when you lose someone, you realize someone that's really close to you that you love. You don't realize that life is short, and as soon as someone passes away, it gives you that sense like, oh man, like this could happen to anyone. Like time is precious.
Anybody.
Life is precious. Like especially being a 13, when I lost my father at 13, I was already struggling with my mother's addictions and had a very unstable life. And when my father passed, it just kind of put things into perspective that life is short and that this is our moments right now. Like us talking right now is an awesome moment. You know what I mean? And we need to enjoy it because, and I hope not, knock on wood, on your drive home you could get hit and be gone. And I'd be like, damn, you know, like Donnie's gone. And that's kind of what losing my father brought out was like, oh man, like life is so fragile. Like I need to enjoy it and I need to work real hard and I need to take it serious.
Yeah.
To a point, like to a fault almost. I took it too serious as a young kid because then after a while you learn, okay, life is serious, but you need to have moments to laugh and enjoy as well. But yeah, I mean that's something that if you've never experienced a close death in your life, like it forces you to grow in a whole nother way that you don't even know is there, and it gives you a whole different perspective of how you treat people, how you act, how you treat yourself, how you treat your moments, how you treat your experiences. You just realize how valuable this life is. Yeah,
I was holding my dad's hand when he took his last breath. You know.
Wow, that's insane.
Telling him, you know, that it was all right to move on. You know, and like it sounds kind of crazy, but like I felt like, you know, part of his soul, you know, jumped into me.
I mean, who knows? That could be the case. Who knows, dude?
To sort of help direct me, you know. Not that I was like, you know, completely lost in the world or anything. It was definitely like a struggle watching him go through what he was going through, you know. And at the time, I'm trying to learn how to be a new father and a homeowner, and how to change the filter in my boiler in the basement, and like, well, you know, just like a big transformation. You know what I mean? Because a couple years there, it was like I had all the money that I needed, and then all of a sudden I wanted to settle down, and then all of a sudden I didn't have money because my contract ended, and it was just like, holy shit, dude! Like I went through a couple years of craziness, dude. You know, but like I actually came out on top. You know.
Absolutely, so. And that's kind of like I feel like
skateboarding made me do that, dude.
It builds you up, dude.
Skateboarding, like all the years of skateboarding, falling down and getting up and not quitting. You know
hell yeah. It taught you the lessons to be able to survive those moments.
Right, and to take care of my family, you know. Yeah. And then my family's inspiration, giving me the inspiration since day one. Yeah. You know, not to be a cool, you know, whatever, like just to keep going and
they instilled
tough it out, you know, tough it out.
I feel like I knew you when all this was going on because we both rode for Z York at the time, and it was kind of like everyone, I don't know, I can't really say for sure, but it seemed like, you know, it was like you had such a good career and it was so long and it seemed prosperous, and when you get to that certain level, it's almost like people are like, I don't want to say they weren't rooting for you, but they're almost like, how long does this last for? You know what I mean? I feel like people kind of like, not just you in general, but just anyone who makes it to a certain level at something and a longevity. I think people, like, they build you up when you're struggling and trying to come up. They're like, yeah, they're rooting for you, but then as soon as you make it past that and you're in a different level than them, they start to want to pull you down. And I feel like towards the end of your career, I feel like it was kind of like, it was almost like, dude, this guy's had such a long career. Like not that people want to see you fail, but they're like, when's he gonna like give it up or something? You know what I mean? And which I never felt that way, because I'm like, dude, I'd go till I'm 150. You know what I mean? Like, it's your one life. So then all this happened at once, you know. And I feel like people were looking at it like, damn, Donny had this, and then all this shit's happening, and I think people are looking and paying attention. But it's just amazing that you kind of like, I don't want to say you proved anyone wrong, but you just survived it like amazingly. Like, you went through your shop, your father, like, it all happened at once. Like, that's a gnarly thing for a human being to experience. You had children. It all happened in a span of how many years? It was like 2 years or something.
Yeah, 3.
People usually stretch that out.
Yeah.
It was like you're living a dream pro life, and then it was like, bam, all this stuff hit you.
Yeah, the carpet got torn out, you know, from underneath my feet. But hey, like, you know, I was definitely bitching and complaining when my contract ended. You know, I had a 3-month period to figure out how I was going to continue to own my property, and how I was going to feed my children and take care of my girl, and, you know, go from making $110,000 a year to zero.
Yeah.
You know, and having 3 months to, you know, so it was gnarly.
I feel like you proved yourself. I guess that's what I was trying to say, because I've seen it happen with a lot of other pros. Like, people are like, dude, this dude's still going with it. Like, whatever. Like, skateboarders are haters in general, and they miss the point of, like, this is your career, this is your life, and you have inspiration to give as long as you want.
Yeah.
They just want your spot so badly, kids and shit. But but you proved yourself, because I feel like you proved that you're a fighter in my eyes, because I was like, even I questioned it. I was like, holy shit, like, Donny's my friend, but like, that's a lot of shit to handle at once, like, everything you went through. And I was like, I've seen other people go the other directions, become full on drug addicts because they feel like they lost their dream. They feel like,
Anthony, I mean, you know, I had my hands in some bullshit too, you know what I mean? But, like, you know, at the end of the day, like,
you're a great father.
Everything else, like, you know, I was able to navigate through, you know, whatever.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's cool, and just I don't have a single regret, you know.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
why should you, man? You lived your life, and I feel like you have an amazing story, and like your plight was pretty interesting, you know. Like, it was pretty fucking cool, and it was amazing, dude, for sure. And I definitely like look up to you. Like, I know we'd have a lot of deep conversations and stuff, and you used to tell me like, damn, dude, you know so much for such a young age, and you gave me a lot of credit. And now the script's kind of flipping, because like, I don't know anything about having kids. Like, I like, a lot of things you're going through right now is stuff that I'll eventually have to come across. So it's like the script has flipped, and I'm kind of inspired by you know what I mean, and by your story. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, is because I was like, you've grown so much as an individual, because you've done the pro skateboarding thing. You took it to a level that at that time I don't think anyone else was. You were huge in skateboarding, big name, Donny Barley, everywhere, biggest companies. And then the natural growth from that was to, okay, I'm getting older. You started opening a shop, and then having kids, and your father passing away, and it's just a natural progression of growth. And I always look at things as like my board graphic. My first one was the rose that was growing, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what you're doing. You were growing super fast at first, like succeeding and all this stuff, and then you hit a bump in the growing process, and then you grew right through it, and you still continue to blossom, you know. And I applaud you for all the stuff you went through, and it went through a 2-year period that was pretty gnarly, and you come out on top. And that's why I say you prove yourself as a fighter, because I know too many people, like even people in my family, that still are stuck on hardship, you know what I mean, instead of learning from it.
Yeah, but dude, in the grand scheme of things, you know, what I went through was, you know, 0.001 of like what some unfortunate people have to deal with, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's just like, you know, I mean, it's nice to reflect about, you know, the roller coaster ride of life, and to think about like back and go, damn, man, remember when we were like barely making it, and you know, or whatever. Like,
hell yeah.
It's rad to like think back to those, those times or whatever, you know. But yeah, man. I mean, you know, I've got it made. You know what I mean? Like, my worst is nothing compared to like, you know, what some people are going on through with, you know, in other countries or in our country. You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Recession's harsh. I always say I like growing older because I feel like with age comes understanding. You know, when you're young, it seems exciting and everything, but I feel like when you're young, you have a lot of fear because you don't understand the world and you don't know where you're going and you don't know what you're doing, and that kind of fuels you to keep going. You know what I mean? But as you get older, you kind of start to understand the world around you, and you start to understand how you are and how you think and how you feel. And I feel like if you can get to a certain age, you can get comfortable in your life and you can start to work at your maximum level, because not only is it physical but it's your mental, you know, and you can start to like create good atmosphere for yourself and for family and people, and I feel like
because you're not wasting your time on the stuff that you can't change. You know what I mean?
exactly.
You know,
yeah.
and how many years we wasted, you know, thinking we can change the skateboard industry, or thinking we can change what the magazines are doing with where skateboarding's going. I don't even, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
you know, it's like, dude, I can't change none of that.
All right, let's get back to the questions then.
Let's do it.
Hell yeah. Damn, we still got quite a bit, dude. All right, here we go. Here's a good one. I don't know who asked this, but other hobbies besides skating and family. Is there anything else you do on the side that you're like passionate about right now?
Yeah, I'm real passionate about not real passionate, but like I really like cooking. Cooking's fun.
Hell yeah.
And it's satisfying to put it on the table and watch everybody go tear it up, you know?
Yeah.
When I'm done cooking. And then I like gardening because we've been actually doing a lot of vegetables and herbs out back.
What do you got going?
At the moment, everything's done for the year,
winter,
obviously, yeah. But we did, you know, tomatoes, and we did some eggplant and a bunch of different peppers and stuff. A bunch of herbs.
Seems rad to grow it and then bring it in the kitchen.
Yeah, it's great, man. It's great, you know. And just the other day, I was cooking the turkey, and my parsley plant is somehow it's still kicking out there.
Damn,
you know, it's freezing out nowadays, but I picked a bunch of parsley out and garnished the chicken. You know, a little. I mean the
turkey. You sent me the photo.
Yeah,
dude. I got the photo.
Yeah.
It looked amazing, man.
I pulled that one off, man. That was great. It's a 20-pound turkey. Did all like the prep work for it, and came out great. And I had about 8 guests over, and they were all the in-laws, you know. So I felt like the pressure was on to sort of pull off the feed. You don't want to piss off the in-laws. Man,
yeah.
You know?
Everyone's like, the middle's fucking frozen, Donnie. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, exactly, man. This thing's dry. What's going on?
KFC.
I know. Ordering Domino's pizza on Thanksgiving. Sorry. Yeah, I pulled it off. The thing was just delectable.
Yeah, that thing that you were saying, it was the first time you ever made it with that way, right?
Yeah, you go do this process called brining, and it's like it's kind of like marinating.
Yeah.
So I did a buttermilk brine. So I basically took my lobster pot that I have to boil lobsters in, you know.
He's from New England, guys.
Yeah. Yep. Not scared of the lobster. And then just concocted the recipe, and then put the turkey in there and let it sit in the refrigerator for about 12 hours.
How long did that thing cook for?
Well, I let it sit in the fridge brine for 12 hours, and then in the morning at like 7 a.m. I woke up early and started chopping vegetables, and then I seasoned the turkey and took it out of the brine and seasoned it. But when it was in the brining process basically softens up the meat. Yeah. And it helps it cook a lot more evenly.
I had a question. What about a Donny Barley cooking show? What about even just a YouTube little videos every time you make something, so people could see like, oh, did you ever think about doing something different, like out there like that?
No. Not so much.
No.
Well, usually actually I use YouTube to inspire me to cook like different dishes or whatever. I'm not like super gnarly with cooking. That's just that like if we're gonna have chicken that night, I'll look up a recipe that'll be unique, and hopefully I'll have the ingredients.
Give it a go.
Yeah, and if I don't, then maybe I'll make a quick run down to the store to spend a couple bucks to do whatever, buy some mushrooms or something to do something or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hell yeah.
But yeah, they get pretty extensive, like some of the YouTube instructional cooking videos on there. So I don't.
Nah.
Not quite my thing.
Is there anything out there that you could see yourself doing one day? Like I was kind of talking to Don Pierre, and like he's super into cars. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to him, and I was like, and he's sponsored by Monster, and I was like, well, why don't you talk to the people at Monster about? Because I was asking him, like, you ever think about being a race car driver and like doing it fully? And he's like, yeah, I thought about it, but I don't really know where to start. I'm like, well, why don't you talk to the people at Monster? And like, I mean, you can. I try to tell people, I'm like, you can do more than one thing, like, and be good at all of it. You just gotta like dedicate yourself. So is there anything out there that you think you might want to do one day, or like something you could pitch yourself doing, like?
I constantly think about brands, you know, because we're involved with skating, and every brand out there right now is unique in its own sense, you know, and there's ones that I enjoy more than others, and there's ones that are like, wow, like those guys are geniuses because they are specifically tailoring their advertisements and stuff to that specific group or genre or whatever, you know. And when I had the skate shop, we branded a lot of our stuff. You know, we did our own clothes and our own boards and stuff like that, and that was really fun. But at the same time, like, I'm just like a normal, like, blue collar type dude.
Yeah.
You know? So like it would get tough for me to do my own brand because I'm not the dude that's like hyped on gimmicks.
Yeah.
You know? It's like I'm just kind of more of like a classic, authentic type thinker.
Yeah.
You know? So for me to like provide something to the youth, you know, the youth want to see sex, drugs, rock and roll, violence.
Yeah, like
know?
Try to pitch them some bullshit.
Yeah, and it's like I'm a dad now, and I'm just like, whoa, man, like I wouldn't want my kids, you know, like.
Oh, I didn't really think about that,
you
but
know?
yeah.
So like I have a responsibility as a parent to like have certain standards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it'd be hard for me to do a brand because it would be boring. I think. You know? Because it would be all like, you know. But then there's different avenues. You know, there's conspiracy theories and certain things where you could like, you know, Obey is an interesting brand because they
propaganda.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
rad, right? Like they kind of are building a brand around, you know,
something that was already there that they just kind of tapped in on and created a feel for the brand. Yeah.
Right. Like so, I feel like if I was gonna ever, because you know, I'm actually getting an education from Element and Plan B. You know, so I'm learning a ton about, you know, what we do for marketing and where we put our marketing dollars and where we, you know, how we attack our target stores and how we can be creative to build business. You know, it's super fun. It's awesome.
They're huge. They're huge. So like,
yeah, it's rad.
Their presence is huge. So it's definitely a pretty good experience.
Yeah, it's rad. And then everybody that works over there is killer. You know, so it's like I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that just want to do rad, authentic stuff, and we, you know, and the concentration on the details is pretty extreme, which is like my avenue. You know, even with skating, like I always wanted to have my tricks have details and my video parts to have details, and for, you know, the clothing I was designing or the footwear I'm designing to have details, you know, just to make it that much better.
Yeah,
you know?
hell yeah.
And the music that we listen to and we're fond of, the reason why we like it is because it was just notch above what it was before. You know, it's kind of, with music, it's a little tough these days. I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
You know, I found myself listening to a lot more stuff in the 90s, but that's just me.
So maybe down the road, if you come up with an idea, we might see a brand. You never know.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Nothing set in stone, but if something comes across.
It would be cool. It would be cool. But other than that, like the next best thing, and a lot less stressful of an avenue, is working with amazing brands. Or you know, for me right now, it's Element and Plan B, and you know, it might not last forever, but like
see where it goes.
It's great right now, and I'm real happy to have the opportunity, dude. You know.
Fuck yeah,
sick,
dude.
Man.
That's rad. This seems like they're taking care of you, which is...
Yeah, that's it, you know. I just try to do as much as I can so that, you know, that'll continue.
Hell yeah.
Because it's what I got going for me at the moment.
Okay, so I got another question. Skate Life 401, so maybe they're from Rhode Island.
Oh, yeah, he follows me on Instagram.
Oh, word, all right. And he's wondering if you ever plan on opening up Foy again, if that's ever a possibility.
Probably not. You know, what I found was that owning a retail store was extremely satisfying. You know, you're shaping and you're growing with the community, and that was awesome. Doing events was great. Watching the kids progress at skating, watching them grow, watching them being there as like a mentor.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing was cool. And then developing, you know, the small collection of clothing that we did.
Yeah.
And stuff like that was fun too. But like, you know, if you're gonna do a retail store, there's like two ways to do it. You really gotta go super huge and carry like a vast amount of products, you know, and footwear and clothing and what have you. But it's just like it's a hustle that like is not quite for me. I kind of found out, you know.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was great being involved and growing everything, and mostly the satisfaction I was getting was from, you know, the kids.
Hell yeah.
You know, but like you know, we just didn't really like turn the corner, and there wasn't like enough money to do anything with aside from pay the overhead.
Yeah.
You know, and so to put in 50 hours a week to see a goose egg, you know,
yeah, it's a tough
it's
one.
exhausting.
Especially when you have a
But there's people
family
out there that totally, you know, I talk to shops all week, every week, and they've got it figured out, and you know, and it just so happened that, you know, for us, Providence was a tough sell, you know, tough city during a tough economic climate or whatever, and then, you know, and me closing the store allowed me to see that I have like more strengths in different places, you know, like, so rather than me, you know, trying to continue to do this
Try
store.
to fit yourself into a size 8 when you're really a size 10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like in a way, like as fun as the store was and as much as I learned and as satisfying as it was at times, you know, like there's way more out there that's bigger and broader and waiting for me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I just have to like, you know, keep doing my work and you know, and evolving.
And maybe that happened, maybe Foy's your brand someday. Maybe that's your apparel brand or something.
Yeah.
Fountain of Youth.
No, exactly. Like that's been a thought for a while now.
For those who are out there that don't really know, is Donny's speaking about his skate shop, Fountain of Youth, and I mean the name kind of speaks for itself. But what was like? How'd you come to that name? Like, you're like, I'm gonna open a shop, and then
I was trying to think of names and stuff, and actually my friend Kyle Clayton kind of inspired me because he was talking about doing like a private clothing label, like a high-end clothing label with like rugby shirts and stuff, and he wanted to call it De Leon.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, like Ponce de Leon. And then I started thinking, like, what was he doing? Yeah, he was like Columbus, right? And I started thinking back to my history classes in junior high or whatever, and I was like, wait, no, he was actually looking for the Fountain of Youth, huh? And then I started, and my friend Kyle had this De Leon. He had all these like different drawings of how he wanted to present this clothing line.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And one of his logos was a fountain.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. So when I kind of put two and two together, and I was like, oh, Fountain of Youth, and then like later on that night, I was like, Fountain of Youth. Maybe that's the name that I should go with.
Yeah,
you know, because
name.
like skateboarding is like the fountain of youth. I mean, I'm 39, and I get, you know, carded when I go to buy a 6-pack. You know, and it's like I always get stoked when they card me. You know, and often they ask like, wow, how do you stay young? And I'm always like, skateboarding. And they're like, skateboarding? You think that would kick your ass? And I'm like, well, you're right, actually. Skateboarding has kicked my ass.
Certain ways.
But, like, it's kept me young, you know what I mean? It's kept my soul young. It's kept my, like, outlook on things kind of young and sometimes juvenile, you know? But,
absolutely.
But, like, so that was kind of, like, the inspiration, I think. And then we made bumper stickers that said, skateboarding is the fountain of youth, you know? And they were there at the grand opening of the store. And, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, I kind of touching on that, like skateboarding, I feel like it's definitely a fountain of youth. It keeps you you're not in sync with the rest of society for sure, because just going out and skating on other people's properties and you just got to think differently. To look at a handrail or to look at some weird embankment somewhere that most people don't even acknowledge or realize it, and to want to utilize it and create something with a skateboard and film it, edit it, put music to it, like create expression through it. Like, I feel like it's definitely the fountain of youth because it keeps you young, and not just young, but it keeps you thinking outside the box. You know what I mean? Like, it keeps you, like I have a video online, the YouTube video of me arguing with the guy at the train station, and he's yelling at me for skating at a train station, and the comments on the video are like a lot of, it's not skateboarders, it's a lot of general public people that don't know anything about skating, and they're just like, they all call me a faggot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the comments are so negative, like skateboarders trespassing, blah, blah, blah. But it scares me because it makes me realize how much people don't understand the act of skateboarding and the good thing about skating. They just think we're just like out there trashing people's properties and saying fuck everything and da-da-da.
Because they don't want to see you have a good time.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I
exactly.
mean?
They definitely don't want. They want me working at
I
the factory
experienced
job.
that my whole childhood, being involved with skating, because it was a subculture that wasn't even on the map yet. You know.
Yeah.
So my whole childhood, it was even the cops pulling over and going, "Why aren't you playing football?" And I'd just be like, "Football sucks," you know.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, you know, I play soccer, but I finished soccer practice at 5 o'clock, and now I'm skateboarding.
Yeah.
Well, did your mom know you're out here skating at 8 o'clock at night? And I'd be like, "Yeah, that's her car right there." You know, she's just like, she's in the store, I'm skating. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, they don't get it. They don't get it.
And then
at
I'd be
all.
like, "Well, officer, was there a complaint?" And they'd be like, "No, you guys are always over here, just like banging up on the curbs and stuff." And I'd be like, dude, there could be 10 times worse things that we could be doing.
The curb's not going to get used otherwise. Like, you're definitely utilizing it, you know?
So just like that was like the beginning of like me feeling not accepted, you know, or whatever.
For sure.
And then over time skateboarding grew, and now it's a household thing, you know?
Yeah, they're trying to market it and box it in so people can understand and swallow it. But the true essence of skateboarding is something that's free.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you and your skateboard, and if you don't do it, you don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go out and skate by yourself and you skate through the streets or even just on ramps or whatever, you're trying to create something. You're trying to like think of something in your brain, visualize it, and then create it into reality. That's what the tricks are. That's what it is. That's what you're doing. Even with the style, maybe not even the trick, but the way you do it or the way you make something look. It's a thought from your brain first, something you like, and then you visualize it. And like most people don't get it. And the comments on that video freaked me out because I'm like, people really don't get it. They look at it either like a sport because of the big contest and Tony Hawk, commercialized sport, or they look at it as vandalism and a criminal little juvenile assholes. You know what I mean? And it's insane. And I'm just like, it floors me. It scares me. It scares me. The mainstream people scare me about skateboarding. It makes me want to like kind of like tell everyone about skateboarding even more, about what skateboarding personally means. You know what I mean? Not just show them a huge contest like a street league or a dew tour, but actually talk about the art of skateboarding. Because I feel like there's not enough of that anymore. Back in the day, there was more of that in skateboarding. You know, nowadays it's more tricks and boxed in type shit. But
yeah,
fuck do I know? Another question for Donnie is, do you have a favorite trick?
My favorite trick is just kind of flowing, if that's a trick, you know? Like, pretty much wherever I go, I like to kind of walk in and, you know, just cruise around and, you know, have enough time to enjoy a skate spot. And that's hard because, like, what we were talking about with security and people kicking you out and stuff. And it's also hard for someone that's 39 years old, you know, like, you know, I could be skating in Providence and a 25-year-old, like, jerk of a security guard can come out and talk crap to me. Yeah. I'm 39. I'm like, you know.
Trying to deal with that bullshit.
Yeah, and I'm not even really that big of a dude, but, like, you know, I can handle myself. You know? I hate to have to handle myself, and this dude's talking crap to me, and I'm just like, you know, and I have to be patient and understanding and walk away from it and just leave, you know.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, it's nuts to to have to cope with that. You know, I find myself skating at a lot of the indoor skate parks or the outdoor skate parks, you know, because it's just like less hassle for me. You know what I mean? I don't really want to have to scrap with some dude that thinks he can fight me because, you know,
he
he's a security guard or something, you know. And then when the officers would, you know, in the last couple of years would kick us out of a spot, I'd just say hi to them, you know, and just talk to them, and they would respect the fact that I was older.
Yeah.
And that I respected them, and that I wasn't a punk, you know.
Yeah.
But in the earlier days, you know, I would usually just walk away or run or bounce, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was good about keeping my mouth shut when it came to that, you know.
That's good.
But, like, it wasn't always easy, you know, and it didn't always work, but... Anyway.
I'm learning that one, too, like, that... to like just kind of let it go, because like a lot of times when you're out skating street, security guard or a pedestrian, they come at you so sideways. Like, I've been talked to so disrespectful.
I just don't understand why you would waste your time. Don't you have better things to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. They probably think
why
the same
are you
thing.
so upset? You're letting your emotions get involved right now, and you're showing me all these emotions that you have, and
Like,
that's
for
actually
what?
your problem.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not in charge of your emotions right now. You are.
Exactly.
And you're like showing me all this stuff about who you are. Like, you might want to move on.
You might need a counselor.
Yeah, like,
Fucking
what's it
psycho.
got to do with me, dude? Like,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm a
like,
taxpayer just like you are. Leave me alone. I don't
absolutely.
need to hear you. You know?
That's what I've noticed is like when I get kicked out of spots, it's they come at me and they see the skateboard and they see what you're doing, they instantly think you're some young punk that doesn't do anything. When in actuality, you're a 39-year-old, a 30-year-old, and we own houses and property, and you know you have kids and the same shit that they do. But we do something that's unconventional and fun, and they don't get it. So then they instantly, I am floored by how I'm spoke to by people. Even security guards, when they're being nice, just their tone and how they speak to me is so disrespectful that I've learned to not say anything and just understand it. But if I didn't have a skateboard, or if they wouldn't speak to me that way, they would never disrespect. They wouldn't say that to their family. They wouldn't talk to me like they're just so disrespectful. It's insane. They come up like, "Gay, get the hell out of here," you know, like freaking out instead of like, "Hey, you know, like don't do that, please leave." Like communicate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's insane. People just think you're a skateboarder and that's it. They fucking talk to you like the worst piece of shit ever. It's insane.
It is.
All right, let me make sure we got all the questions done, just so. Oh, that was one. This one actually was from Paiva. You know Paiva.
Yeah.
Craig Paiva owns No Problemo Burrito Shop, New Bedford, Mass. I'm actually trying to get him on the show as a guest. Him and JV. JV owns Solstice Skate Shop in New Bedford as well.
Oh, geez.
Yep, both transitioned from being skateboarders. I mean, they still skateboard, but they transitioned from like sponsored skateboarding into owning businesses, skate shop in a burrito spot, taqueria. So I'm trying to get them on. But Paiva wanted to know what was your favorite sponsor? Because he was saying, he was like, hey, like Donny's had quite a few sponsors over the years. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a board. It could be any sponsor. Like what would you consider your favorite sponsor?
Toy Machine for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was that just because of the time and the era and all the people?
Yeah, that was just really real, man. We, you know, it was just like I got invited to be part of this little movement, and, you know, Jamie's, like, video expertise capabilities and Ed's, you know, design and branding skills with the brand and, like, and you know, the guys to the left.
Team.
Yeah, exactly. The team to the left, to the right. Like, you know, I was just amongst a really unique group, and it was right at a time where skateboarding was kind of waiting for somebody to grab the reins and ride off into the sunset. You know what I mean? It was like anybody's game kind of or something. And we built a team, and I don't think anybody expected to see, you know, what we were doing to be, you know, at that level or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was like we kind of like took the whole skateboard world a little bit by surprise, and we dropped the video, and then, you know, everything after that and before that was just beautiful, you know?
That's
and
right.
so like I think, you know, and then now I see Toy Machine ads, and I see Ed on Instagram and some of the other riders, and I'm still fond of all of it, you know, and it's great, you know. And then one other sponsor I had was Quicksilver, and there was benefit to being on Quicksilver because they were just so successful and paid.
Yeah.
And it was rad traveling with them because it was all 5-star the whole time. You know?
Like a celebrity.
Yeah, it was baller. And like some of the photo trips that we went on, I'd be like chilling with Kelly Slater and Tony Hawk and Nathan Fletcher, and to me that was special. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
To be like, you know, with dudes that are like on that level, and it kind of it was a mind-blowing time. But like at the same time, you know, they were you know, a big brand, and there were some things that they did as far as it was just weird, you know what I mean? Because they were like bigger. Where I was coming from was like Toy Machine was like small, and Todd Swank owned it. Yeah. You know, and you know, he was a ripping skater in his day, you know. So it's kind of like, I don't know. But yeah, it was fun to stay at the W Hotel in Manhattan for a few days and have carte blanche, you know, whatever. Just pick up the phone and whatever you want's covered.
I was gonna say to Ed Templeton, man. I hope you heal up, man. Did you see that? His leg, man.
I've been messaging him like probably every other day, like, hang in there, buddy. You know?
That's unfortunate. I seen an Instagram of him laid up, but he seemed like he had a good spirits about it. He was drawing in his book and stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's a gnarly one. Okay, so let's see. I think we have one more question from the people. Oh, Jared Pimentel. What up, Jared? I know you'll listen to this. You know Jared?
I don't know.
He's from he hangs out with Goonan. He's a shorter dude, but
he's on Instagram.
Yeah. Jay Pimentel, he's on there. His question is, we actually covered his. He was the one who was wondering about who influenced your style and who you looked up to. So we covered that.
A little bit of everybody.
A little bit, yeah. Pieces. I had a question though.
Okay.
Because you rode for America.
Mhm.
And you had a pro shoe, right, for America?
Yeah.
How did that come about, and how did that feel to like have them? Like, was that something that you thought you could achieve? Like,
no
get a
way,
pro
man.
shoe? And
No, we were actually living in Newport Beach. Well, Tom and Chad and Angel, who does Supra and Crew.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's the CEO guy over there. And Tom Penny and Chad Muska. They had a place in Newport Beach, and I was like just staying on the couch once again, you know.
Couch surfing Donny.
Yeah, just traveling and we were skating a ton, and those guys were riding for ES, and I was riding for Etnies, and then they decided to do ES and they decided to do America simultaneously, and they were trying to figure out who fit into what brand and how they were going to direct each brand.
Yeah.
You know? And so Tom and Chad kind of fit in pretty strongly with the ES, where they wanted to take ES, and I think they had figured out that they wanted that label to be like a lot more high end, you know, and they wanted America to be kind of like more like gritty.
Skate rat.
Yeah. So they were like, okay, we're gonna put Chris N and Cardiel and Donny Barley and blah blah blah, and so the team was rather big.
Cardiel was on America?
Damn. Yeah, we had a rad little squad going. It was not rad. It was big. You know, there was Tim Broch was on it, I think, too.
Okay.
And then, they just they grew the brand as far as, you know, numbers and sales go. And as they did that, they sort of shrunk it as far as the team went. So it became a little bit more exclusive.
Yeah.
And Andrew Reynolds became, you know, a big, you know, pretty much almost like the voice of the brand, sort of, during that period. Chris N had a sneaker. Mark Johnson had a sneaker.
Yeah, the Mark Johnson one, I had so many pairs. Such a good shoe.
Yeah, Ed had a sneaker. And then eventually it was my turn to design a shoe, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So I designed a pretty cool shoe. It was pretty bulletproof, and it was during the time when shoes were a little bit chubbier, you know.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make a shoe that just would last forever, you know. And
Yeah.
some of the materials we used in the shoe were a little bit pricey, so the shoe was priced at like $90, I think, which was top of the line pricing wise for an America shoe.
Yeah.
I think everything else was probably, you know, somewhere between, you know, 55 to 75, you know.
Yeah.
And my shoe was kind of like, whoa, you know,
A little notch
pricey.
above.
Yeah,
But that thing would last.
Right. And I think it did good out of the box. I think it did okay. And then it kind of flatlined, you know. And a lot of the shops couldn't move it because it was priced a little bit too high. And then so we started designing a second sneaker, which is interesting because I did the opposite. I made a super thin shoe, and it was like a ninja slipper. And I took the Adidas shell toe nose, and we modified it and made it kind of like a little bit different. So that was going to be that nose of the shoe was going to be what was going to, you know, be the expensive part of the shoe.
Yeah, the rest was a slipper.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so that was going to take care of like your ollies, you know, and all the wear and tear. Like,
Yeah.
You know, and so that was like a thicker rubber, but it was done well, and I got the samples back, and it came back in a black leather, and we were going to do it in canvas, and we were going to do it in synthetic suede, nubuck or whatever, and my contract was coming to the end, and we were actually filming for that video. This is skateboarding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and we went on a couple of trips, man. And I was just like kind of having a tough time getting along with some of the other guys on the team, and I was filming with Manzuri and with what's that other guy's name? Yeah, we were filming for the video, and I had a blast filming with Manzuri. Everything was going pretty fine, but there was just something missing. It was awkward, you know.
Yeah.
I felt like, you know, and they kicked off a couple people. They kicked off Paul McEnroe. I think they got rid of Chris Shu. They did a couple things that were just, in my opinion, I was just kind of like, huh? Because I didn't understand the business back then.
Yeah.
You know, I just kind of wanted things to be, you know,
like awesome.
Yeah, and the way
make it as awesome.
Yeah,
as you can,
and it was rad because Don Brown would always listen to what we wanted to do, and Justin Regan was our manager, and he was completely open to how we wanted to shape the program.
Yeah.
You know, which was rad. But yeah, so then my contract came to an end, and I don't know. I just was like, they were like, here, you know, here's your contract if you want to sign it, and I was like, nah, I'm good. And I walked away.
Kids out there are probably shitting their pants right now.
I walked away from it. Yeah, I just kind of walked away from it and just decided I was going to go get a different shoe sponsor. And I thought that there would be a line, you know, of people maybe, not a line, but I thought that I'd have a couple options, you know, a few opportunities and stuff. And pretty much got shoes from like Audio and DVS and a few other people, Nike, and ended up just kind of sticking with Nike, you know, and getting Flow from Nike. And they had, you know, made some, you know, promises like, hey, yeah, you know, we're going to get you going on this program and next year and stuff. And next year turned into the next year. And
they didn't really start it. It seemed like that when you were on, it was like they never did start it, and then
and then they actually handpicked P-Rod out, and then that was their like little golden child, you know? And then they tried to kind of build things around him and a few of the other guys, which is, you know, awesome. You know, I just somehow didn't my ticket never came.
Well, you ended up doing the Zoo and the Zoo.
Right. Well, yeah, because I mean, I had been waiting for this Nike thing to take off for me. You know, I wanted to be part of the team, and that didn't.
I think the Nike thing took off after you were already gone, because it didn't happen.
Well, they had a team.
They did, okay.
Yeah, they had a team.
Didn't seem like they were doing much with the brand for a while. It was just like...
Well, they were trying to, like, get it off the ground and get it indoors and whatnot, like, you know, and they handpicked a team of unique guys from opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So they had, like, Chet Childress over here, P-Rod over here, and then, like, you know, whoever else, Daniel Shimizu, I think, you know. And,
I think a lot of these dudes still might skate for him.
Yeah.
I don't really know the history there.
Yeah. So, but, you know, at the end of the day, like, that opportunity didn't really, like, grow, you know.
Yeah, and you ended up going over doing Zoo. I had a question before we move forward. Do you still have a sample pair of the Barley 2?
No, I skated those, and I have a couple pictures of me wearing them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and I think Don and Justin Regan told me that they have a couple maybe in the vault at Soul Tech, like, you know, they kept
saved it somewhere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a collection of like, did you try to save as many of your boards as you can? Do you have like a healthy skate collection at home? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What's do you have any prizes in there that you're psyched on? Maybe did you collect other people's stuff too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you got any good things that
I got a lot of signed boards from a lot of pros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Not like, you know, not a shit ton, but like, you know, a good healthy collection. And, you know, the challenging part for that is to try to, you know, keep those things as clean and as, you know, shrink wrapped or whatever you want to say, and you know, away from, you know, getting dinged and stuff. But like, unfortunately, over the time of moving and moving there and whatever, like some of them have gotten a little bit dinged or whatever. And then, you know, I've been hanging some of them are hanging on the third floor of my house, and they look great, and it's awesome, and the kids always stare at them, and whoever comes over is always, you know,
psyched.
Yeah, like, damn, you know, this is cool. And one day I want to refinish my basement and make that be my man cave.
Hell yeah. Deck it out, wall to wall.
Yeah.
I need to do that too, man.
I have the vision in my head. I know exactly what I want to do. I just got to, like, save up the cake for it. You know?
Yeah.
And get down there and patch up a few of the you know, there's a couple. The basement it's taken on water once, but I can't be putting that stuff down there.
You got a sub pump or whatever they are?
Yeah. I actually
pump it out.
I bought one, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty New England for you.
Yeah.
All the houses down here have that stuff. Do you have any crazy road stories? Just like some interesting crazy story from on the road, and
times
maybe some different country, or
times they're all illegal. Can't talk about it. What happens on the road stays on the road.
Where's the most interesting place you've traveled?
Actually, you were with me. We went to China.
Oh, hell
that
yeah.
time. I think that might have been one of the coolest trips I've ever been on, as far as unbelievable skate spots and unique, eating. Remember some of the dinners that we had with the
dinners were amazing for sure.
Yeah,
and crazy.
And then just we had like a van and a tour guide, and he didn't speak that much English, but he knew all the skate spots.
Mr. Jung.
Yeah.
Jung unit.
Yeah, he was tight. And then Anthony Clairval was with us, and he had all these crazy spots, and we just went around and like my kind of blew my top, And at the time, like, I think we had just had Charlotte, and Jesse and I were like, trying to find balance as parents, and just, I it was tough. We were filming for the video.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
State of mind.
State of mind, yeah. And I was just trying to find some like a calm place in my brain at that point to where I could like actually think about skating and produce, and it was challenging.
And China was crazy.
Yeah, it was, but like it was rad, dude. That was a pretty amazing trip. I could go back there anytime and go skating and just soak it all in. I thought,
It seems like China's like almost, like for me too, when I tell people like my favorite place to go is China, because it's such an extreme. It feels almost like an alien world. Because like no one understands you.
Yeah.
Like you can't understand one word. Like you go to France, you go to England, you can understand people. Like even if they're speaking Spanish or French, you can understand a bit, hit words and words. There you can't understand one word unless you study it. And then just the culture itself, like,
they eat everything.
Yeah.
Remember going through the farmer's market and seeing like vegetables that I'd never seen before. They eat like weird roots, and then all of a sudden we go around the corner and you can smell fish, and you just see everything from. I saw sea creatures in there that I didn't even.
It looks like aliens.
Yeah. Whoa, dude. What are those things? And people would like take a machete and hack it off and pay for it and walk off and
like take it home.
Yeah. What are they gonna do with that thing, dude?
They're gonna eat it.
Yeah. What was that squiggly weird thing?
We saw the dog thing. I saw a glass case with the dog in it too. They actually do eat dog. I don't think it's very common, but
yeah.
They eat dog over there as well. Like, they will eat anything.
Yeah, it was bizarre. They even had, like, you turn another corner and it was all, like, insects that had been dried out. Like, big, like, worms and, what do you call it?
Like centipedes
grasshoppers and stuff, And all that's protein. It's just not part of our diet,
I'm sure it will be. As resources start to die out, we're going to have to start eating what's around us, and, like, because gas, fuel, and all that stuff, unless they figure it out, man, it'll become part of our diet for sure. I'll be eating grasshoppers.
You're on your own there, boy.
Dipping them in chocolate. Chef Barley cooking up some centipedes for the fam.
My kids would be hating on me. Dad, what are you doing? This sucks.
You got to feed them the insects young, man. Get them young, get them hooked. Here's a cockroach. I've done that one.
Oh, man. That was ugly.
Disgusting.
That was nasty.
But yeah, and China is really interesting too, because it was developing. Like, I remember we'd go and it'd be like super tech, city, everything, and then we'd drive a little bit and it's just like people riding bikes, like
dirt roads,
like carrying, like it was just like so extreme there. It was really crazy, man. Definitely a cool place. I've actually been lucky to go. I went twice. I went with Clairval twice now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went before we went with Zoo. I went with Terrell Robinson, and we did the trip.
I remember you told me that.
And that was pretty cool because it was basically just me, Terrell, and Anthony, and just skated and met all the people and shredded. It was cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
You all right over there?
Yeah, I'm just itching my ear.
Injury? Headphone injury?
Oh, no.
No. Cool. Yeah, so I think we covered all the questions. Is there anything you want to touch on? Is there anything, like, I mean, I know people are going to listen to this in the industry, like, is there anyone you want to thank? Is there anything you want to touch on at all? Any stories or anything?
Man, I'd say I want to thank everybody out there that's been part of skateboarding, from the Groms all the way to the veterans, to the pioneers, to the brand owners, to the industry folks and the people at the magazines. I mean, at some point throughout the time that I've been involved, I've crossed paths with just about almost everybody, you know, and it's been a pleasure, and I feel super lucky to have, been a part of skateboarding for this long and
Continue to be.
Yeah, and continue to be, and to, I have friends all over the world that do what we do, and made connections with people all over the place, and like I said, from, and I've, looked up to and learned and, gathered things from just about everybody along the way, so it's just, what's up, everybody? Thank you. Love you guys.
Actually, that reminded me of a question I had was, since you're working with Plan B and Element now,
yeah,
and do you actually work with the team at all? Because have you been able to travel?
Yeah, actually, a little bit, yeah, and it's gonna next year. We've got a lot of cool stuff lined up, but I just was in Virginia Beach with Tori and with Sheckler and some of the Element riders, and that was actually pretty cool. It's awesome being able to just be in a van and like listen and what these dudes are gabbing about, and where their heads are at, And it's amazing, dude. The kids of today, like, dude, Sheckler and Tori, they're like so ahead of the game, and so just disciplined and intelligent, And it's just like, I think back to where my head was at when I was, at the peak of my game, and it's not even like a fifth of what these guys understand and how they handle themselves and how professional they are and the level of their skating and everything. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Like, I'm 39 watching these, early 20-year-old type kids, and it's like, I'm so proud to see like what they're doing. It's like skateboarding it's man, you become part of skating when you fall in love with it, and it's just like you're a supreme person in society. I think you're a step ahead of everybody.
I agree, man.
You know what I mean? Because you have to survive on a skateboard. You have to survive on the streets. Like, as you're learning your craft,
Yep.
And then part of skateboarding is art and music and all this other stuff. And so, like, we're just like, you can't even fade us, dude. Like, skateboarders are like the most
legit, dude.
Yeah, like, I feel like we're this subculture that's like way more versed than, football is like, do your push-ups. Baseball is throw the fastball.
They got boxed in.
And skateboarding is just like, it's just lawless, and it's got so much creative in there, and it's like good for the world,
Hell yeah.
But I mean,
they're learning. I was watching this thing last night on TV, and it was talking about the way that pretty much anyone can make art nowadays. Like, back in the day, like, if you wanted to be a drummer, you had to be really good at drumming, and if you're in a band and you wanted to, like,
you had to actually sound good, and it wasn't marketing and image oriented.
And it wasn't, because they can synthesize, they can do all types of stuff with your voice, and drumming, they can use a drum machine. Like, the technology has outgrown the craft.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But the way these people were speaking about it, they actually admitted that they had this company, and they kind of stole their techniques from skateboarders, because skateboarders were the first ones out there, and even with VHS, we were filming and recording what we were doing and creating and not being boxed in and being fluid. And that's kind of the way the technology and companies and stuff are starting to do it, because back in the day, you had to know someone, or you had to have the startup capital to become a musician or to start a brand. And nowadays, everything's so accessible. You can start up a brand. You could create a whole band with just a Mac, and you could start a whole brand with a computer now, and you can reach people. There's this guy on there that was talking about his book, and he reached 5 million people with his book. Sorry, my dogs just freak out every time my car drives by.
FedEx.
Yeah, probably. But so this guy, he was an author, and he wrote a book, and he had a publishing house, and they sold his book, and he made a good amount of money. His next book, he made a book, and it was like 29 pages. It was a thin book or something, and he gave it to the people that were his sponsors or whatever, the publishing house, and they wanted to sell it, and he told them, no, I want to give it away for free online. And they're like, no, you can't do that. So he just said, whatever, I'm going to do it. He gives this book away for free online, and 5 million people downloaded copies of the book and loved it. It was like best book he's written, most successful. And so then what his publishing house decided to do was, okay, we're gonna print the book, but like a special edition one. And they ended up doing that, and they sold it for $40. It's 29 pages. They sold it for $40 a piece. I guess he made more money off the book he gave away free than his first book. You know what I mean? So, like, basically what I'm saying is he reached 5 million people and still made revenue off of it. So nowadays it's like through social media and all that stuff, you can reach massive groups of people, where before it's like you kind of needed business and people to help you, and now you can create it yourself. So that's kind of the way it's going, I feel. And
it's already there, man.
Yeah, and that's why I talk to you guys, and I'm like I was talking to Nick and you and every one of my guests. I'm always like, kind of like, oh, what, you ever think about doing something like starting up a brand or like being a race car driver or doing this? Because it's really accessible now. You really could do it through the connections, and especially being skateboarders and having connections like with Nick with Monster, and they sponsor race cars and stuff like that. It's like, if you actually realize you can do cool shit and just do it, it's like you can do it, you know? But yeah, I think that's about it, Donnie, unless there's anything else you want to touch on.
Sick, man. You guys
skate safe. Shred it up. Rip it.
Oh, yeah, thanks for tuning in to the podcast. I'm hyped to have Donnie on. Such an interesting dude. We probably could have went for another 2 hours, but we're going to wrap it up. Stay tuned. I'll have more guests soon, and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's @Anthony Shetler. And Donnie, you want to plug yours? Do you have any?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, just Donny Barley. You can follow me if you want.
You got a Facebook profile too?
I kind of canceled it a little bit ago. It was getting out of hand and consuming my time a little bit too
Twitter much. Or just Instagram?
I'm on Twitter too, but I kind of don't. Yeah, I kind of sleep on the Twitter thing.
Instagram, dude.
Yeah, Instagram, I guess, for now. Skateboarding is the fountain of youth.
For sure, that's the truth. All right, peace, guys.